right. We are live with 557 fellow travelers at this point.
Hello, 557. What's his face have? The British guy.
Oh,
he has hello to my 2 million followers every day.
6 million.
6 million. It's amazing.
Exactly.
We just have our little 30,000 audience. Nobody knows about it. Don't tell anybody. You know, I don't want anyone to know Hunley and I are even doing this.
Hush.
Yeah, because the man will come and take us down. If we get those kind of numbers like he has over in England, they'll come after us.
Well, apparently YouTube has come after him, so he went to Rumble.
Yeah, that's why we got to stay small, Hunley. Don't subscribe. Whatever you do, folks, please, I beg you, do not subscribe. I don't need the surus. And today's word, the Yiddish word of the day, is surus.
All right.
Say that, Eric.
Surus.
Okay, surus means trouble. So we don't need the trouble or the hazarai of YouTube fascism coming after us. Oh, I shouldn't say fascism because now they'll come after us.
Okay, actually, speaking of trouble and everything else, we do have a sponsor, so we probably need to get it out of the way before we get them into trouble.
Before Barnes gets here, we do the business thing.
Exactly. We got HelloFresh.
HelloFresh. Telephone call for Fresh.
This video is being sponsored by HelloFresh. You've probably heard of them as they are America's #1 meal kit. They offer over 50 weekly options, giving an amazing amount of variety of recipes so you'll never get bored. They even have veggie, pescatarian, and fit and wholesome meals to make it easy to stick to your goals. With HelloFresh, step-by-step recipes are super easy to follow, and pre-portioned ingredients help cut out the prep time. It's also up to 72% cheaper than dining at a restaurant, according to Zagat. To try HelloFresh, just click the link below, and you'll get 17 free meals across 7 boxes, plus 3 surprise gifts. Thank you very much, and thanks to HelloFresh for sponsoring this video.
Oh, that was pretty good. You know, the Zagat versus Zogby might be a good baseball game, but also the pescatarians versus the breatharians. I mean, there's some great matchups here. I mean, we could root for.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Zagat versus Zogby. Who's the polling guy? Zogby? Zogby
maybe.
polls? Yeah.
Could be. I don't know. Look at this. Oh, hey, we already got support coming in. Thank you. Roger Raff.
Go, Roger Raff.
He's subscribed to us on Locals, Rumble, and YouTube. Good. I'm glad you didn't get the memo. Keep subscribing.
Ryan and Rebecca to get off the pot and subscribe. Who are they? Some others? Or
I don't know, but I hope they subscribe. Thank you very much.
Feds are definitely watching. I can tell you. They've been watching me for 16 years. I've had my phones tapped. I've had everything. I mean, I'm a small nothing. Please leave me alone. Go after the big fish. What happened to the guy? Remember the guy? Oh, here's Pasha. This guy's good. Before I forget, Mark, I hope you have a Yiddish words of the day that you can post. I don't. I'm just winging it. I mean, just remembering them from my grandparents and my parents. Actually, my mother would use them all the time too.
Well, right on time because
they do make those little words that. Here's Barnes. He's more Jewish than Fry is. Let me tell you something. This guy knows more about Judaism than David does. He's like an honorary Yid.
Well, if you saw that after I did that debate with Fuentes, where they put Fuentes as a Muslim, and they had me as an old Orthodox rabbi. They put
that's funny.
Yeah, it was funny. It was great.
That's funny.
Because it was Fuentes saying, "Yes, of course, all the Jews must die." Yeah, classic.
No, it's so funny because David gets so embarrassed, and he's more of a Zionist than David is. I love it.
Yeah. But you're working on David, and he moved to an area where he should get a little more Jew influx, right?
You think?
Yeah, that's my guess.
Boy, is he in for a ride?
I didn't even realize. Did you see his new driver's license combo?
Yes.
But somebody actually said it to me. I'm like, I missed it. He's freaking Florida man.
I know.
He is literally.
I think we have Florida man as one of our meme makers on our Viva BarnesLaw.locals.com.
Hey, welcome. Glad to see you back. It's been a month. Nothing happened in an entire month. The most boring month ever.
Yeah. I was supposed to be on this morning with Megan Kelly, and my nieces were in town. And so here in Vegas, so went out to one of my favorite places, Hugo's Cellar. None of them drink. And so I had to drink the bottle myself. But it was a really good French bottle of wine. Got home, got a little out of it, and then I couldn't get to sleep, and so took like a little sleeping pill. Usually those things don't even work.
Right.
I didn't wake up until all of a sudden, like, there's all these texts from Megyn Kelly's producers crew. Where are you? Where are you coming?
No,
When are you here?
no.
I was like, I guess
Ah.
not. I kind of wasn't feeling well last night. Kind of crashed. Unusual, very unusual for me to sleep like that at all, ever. So I
Right.
guess God just didn't want me, God bless Megyn Kelly. I guess God just didn't want me to be on the show.
Right.
The,
No.
I don't know if she knows how strong my position is on the Alex Jones case because she's on the
No.
opposite
She
side.
just wanted to explore it. She just wanted to talk it over with you.
Maybe it was a good thing.
She said maybe Robert's got an opinion on Jones.
It might have been. I mean, her and her producer crews were big fans, but I don't know if they were fully aware of that. But what's fascinating to me is the mainstream media, institutional media, a lot of those folks, they get really, like this happened with Fox years ago. They seem to really think it's a massive privilege for you to be on their show.
Right.
And I honestly have never thought of it that way. There's almost no show I've ever been on. This sounds arrogant. Where I didn't think it wasn't a privilege for them to have me on. But
Well,
what I mean is,
it should be. I look at it as a privilege.
No, I'm privileged. Sure. Yeah.
I mean,
well, and when we invite guests to Sidebar, I consider it our privilege that they come on.
Right. Except when you bring on all these spooky guys like Rufo and the other guys who are obviously intelligence operatives infiltrating behind enemy lines. Don't you vet these guys or what?
Mike Davis was great. I mean, well, yeah, somebody who, you know what? Did you know that Bob Ross, the painter, Bob Ross?
Hey, yeah.
Happy.
Yeah, happy. I didn't know that everything was actually designed to be seductive for his female audience. And it's a new documentary, but they're like, yeah, you caress it here and the little.
Oh, it's very erotic. Yeah, he has a niche of women that just I don't know.
Apparently goes.
Yeah,
but
have you heard of ASMR? He's considered the progenitor of ASMR.
What's ASMR?
ASMR is the voice stuff where like people they listen and because of his brushes and everything. The sounds. Some people they get that chill in the back of their spine when they do it.
Who gets that chill in the back of his spine is Fetterman, that guy in Pennsylvania.
Uncle Festerman is
Uncle Fester. He's now half AI.
Real.
Right.
That huge bump in the back of his neck. We're going to have the hunchback senator from Pennsylvania.
No, but that's where he taps into the board and the computer when he did the interview on NBC yesterday. Now the wife is going after NBC because the woman had the temerity to suggest he couldn't make small talk before the interview because he wasn't tied into the Borg AI machine yet.
Well, maybe he's waiting for Elon Musk's chip to.
I think he's got a bigger version of the chip. They haven't made the small one yet, Bob.
But this might make your CIA thing someday. I don't know if there's any ultimate tie-in, but so Bob Ross was put into business by a husband and wife, and apparently there ended up being controversy. I'm only halfway through the documentary. Guess where the husband worked before he had just retired from? Before he went and helped promote Bob Ross.
Let me think. Does it have 3 letters?
Yeah, exactly. It has almost the same letters as probably Legal Bites' relatives have.
No, telephone call.
I know. Huntley's about to shoot me, but I'm just having a little fun. But out there, if somebody makes you famous, somebody makes you successful, you got to have reciprocal loyalty. I mean, I'm from Tennessee, so I believe in loyalty as a virtue, but you can't have somebody make you successful. That person get canceled temporarily for a period of time from YouTube, look like permanently, and not say anything about it. You're going to get criticism from a bunch of us. You got to have a little more loyalty there, darling.
Well, let me ask you something. What is, getting back to loyalty, what is Musk being investigated for by the DOJ now, Robert? This just happened.
I assume he was already being investigated.
Oh, okay. Good point.
That's why I think he went to buy Twitter. I think he realized he had adversaries, that the Biden administration had turned hostile despite him being in the whole environmental space.
Right.
And he thought, okay, I need right-wing allies because I'm about to get into a large political legal war.
Right.
How do I get that? Hey, maybe I'll buy Twitter.
Right.
And I think that's what a lot of that, that was my speculation at the time about it. I think he may have sincere interest in free speech. I think he may have sincere interest in what he can use Twitter for, like a WeChat type thing. He's been public about this. But my view is the timing all struck me as about the Justice Department. And of course, there's, he has his critics, people that claim he's been committing consumer fraud for 2 decades. And all of that. And I think that he decided not to do something that the Biden administration wanted him to. Here's my speculation. Biden administration wanted him to do something. He didn't want to do it for whatever reason.
Right.
and they decided to punish him by escalating criminal lawfare because that's what they do with everybody. I mean, take for example, like it was a tax case last week that got very little attention. Their target is a big media guy who's behind buying out CNN and purging CNN of its overt political partisanship.
Wow.
The Biden administration suddenly goes after him and his company for a huge tax bill that they want to charge.
Mhm.
It's like, I mean, they're weaponizing
Let me tell
everything.
you something. These guys make Nixon seem like Mr. Rogers.
Oh, absolutely.
In terms of utilizing
Nixon had none of the cojones. The old joke my Italian buddy used to make. Those grew up homeless in streets in New York City, by the way.
Yeah.
He said his two favorite presidents were FDR and LBJ, and I was like, why? And he was like, because they had the balls to kill the other guy.
Oh, that's a good line. I mean, they went after Candace Owens right after she dropped this Black Lives Matter documentary. The IRS.
That was always a fraud. I mean, it was like Black Panthers, late 19. People don't understand Crips, Black Panthers. Those things were frauds from day one. There was a little bit of political rebellion that was legitimate. You had legit guys like Fred Hampton, et cetera. But there was a bunch of grifters all around that. This BLM was just pure grifters from day at the top. Not your like line everyday ordinary community protester. A lot of those people are legit. Right. But your people at the top, and those guys, they're all grifters. They're buying real estate right out for everything.
Well, no, they gave out the money to trannies and strippers and sex workers, and that's part of what her doc is about, I presume, from the trailer.
Did you see Kelly Osbourne is like, golly, gee, I probably shouldn't have given them all that money.
Oh, no, Sharon, the mother, Sharon Osbourne.
The mother, Sharon. Yeah, you're right, Sharon.
Yeah.
Man, have you ever met Ozzy? I met Ozzy.
Oh, I know Ozzy pretty well. I've had my, at one point he said to me, I can't believe how many drugs I've got inside of me. And these are the good prescription drugs. Yeah, exactly. He's an interesting guy, Ozzy.
Oh, yeah, fascinating. I used to run into them in Malibu. I don't think it's still, so it was at the old Nobu before Nobu moved to being on the ocean side. It was the older one was inside the mall. And Ozzy and his wife were right behind us. And listen to that voice. The only freakier one was I had a dinner in Beverly Hills once, and all of a sudden, Leonard Nimoy started talking behind me. And I didn't know he was behind me. I was like, holy crap, Spock. I was like, that voice was just freaked me out.
You know, his son wrote a memoir how much he hated his father's guts.
Okay.
Did you read that? I mean, the guy.
I saw some part documentary on it. It's like, whoa, man.
He never was a dad. He was always, shooting off his phaser or on the, teleportation device or something. He never came home. I mean, the guy lives in a lap of luxury and is embittered that his father's a huge star who's got to work all the time.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of those stories in Hollywood.
Yeah. So sad. And then whatever happened to him, I don't know. But
we're doing his co-star's wife, right?
His co-star's wife. What was
that?
Shatner's?
Yeah.
Which wife? The one he murdered?
There you go.
I meant to tell you this. He drowned that bitch. He drowned her, and he had crocodile tears on the porch when he came out. When the media showed up, Robert, his wife had gone to rehab multiple times. She had escaped that night from rehab, came home, started swimming. She was an Olympic level swimmer and somehow drowned in the pool. And she wanted half of his wealth, a la Robert Blake scenario. So for some reason, she drowned in the pool. Don't ask me how. But he goes out on the front steps. The media shows up. And it's the worst acting performance of his life, right? So you just go, who knows if he drowned her? You don't really know. 10 days later, he's in an elevator on Madison Avenue in a building. And he's tongue kissing this blonde who becomes the future Mrs. Shatner a month or 2 or 6 months later, not knowing that a guy standing next to him in the elevator is going to work on the next floor. And that guy was Stuttering John from the Howard Stern show. And Stuttering John runs in to Howard Stern right from the elevator and says, "You'll never guess who's in the elevator tongue kissing a blonde." And Stern goes, "Who?" He goes, "William Shatner." And Shatner, and then he says, "Well, he must have murdered his wife then." And that's where this is where it all comes from.
I ran into Shatner once on a plane once. He was dressed nice and he was with another young blonde. So the life isn't bad for old William. But you talk about people that have destroyed their career. Howard Stern. You're talking about a guy who was at a peak at one time, iconic.
Yep.
I was never personally a fan, but now he's a total schmuck. Hides out in his basement doing lame crap. It is pitiful.
Let me tell you something.
He's a shell of himself.
I gave him the Fart Man album, and that he didn't even thank me for that. That became a big character for him. That was off a National Lampoon record, recorded by us with an actor named Roger Bumpus, who did a brilliant performance of this pseudo superhero named Fart Man. And Stern took that, stole the whole thing, became Fart Man on MTV. But the guy who really hit me to him was Jackie Martling, aka Jackie the Joke Man, who would come to me after every show and show me his yellow legal pad, how he had written every single word that Stern said for 3 hours. Verbatim, Robert. And I just went, holy cow. And he would go underneath Stern's desk and show him the words to say that he was writing, Jackie. And Jackie was a drunk, and he was bitter, and he was a bitter drunk. But he had a justification for his bitterness. Let me just put it that way.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of those stories around Howard. The not quite the outsider outcast he made himself out to be, and quickly cashed in and loves the cachet and the celebrities and all the rest. So it's become kind of pitiful, but speaking of like wild stories. So there's a guy put up a Twitter thread about a story that happened all the way back like almost 20 years ago about how white hat actors within the intelligence agencies basically approached Senator Leahy while he was out on his morning jog with his wife. So he was out his morning jog with his wife, and a couple of these ordinary people just jog up next to him, say, by the way, Senator, you might want to check out file number, boom, boom, boom. And he goes and he checks it out, and it's basically, and they did this 3 different times, and it was all files that showed that the Bush administration was lying about the intel of WMDs.
Oh, that's interesting.
So
whistleblower or white hat, or what are they?
Leahy never knew, and Leahy, I mean, here's the United States senator, glad to get this, love to tell the story, but said he never asked for their names and never wanted to know their names. So it tells you even somebody that's at the top of the Senate Intelligence Committee at the time is terrified of the intelligence community they're supposed to regulate and govern.
Well, we've got a scandal going on here, Robert, that I know you would enjoy if you were here with the city council.
Oh, yeah. Just their honest talk.
This is a barn burner.
That's pretty light by traditions of LA City Council. I mean, like,
it's just that it's audio and you could play it over and over again, backwards and forwards, take some acid, listen to Paul is Dead if you play the tapes backwards. So it's a gift that keeps on giving. And apparently there's like a lot of these things. If you're inside of LA politics, I could give you some insight as to what is going on from.
Yeah, well, because what's like the city. Now she resigned from the head of the city council.
No, she's out completely now. Nuri completely resigned, and they're demanding that Cedillo and De Leon resign. They're in hiding right now. Robert, this is one of the great dude. I don't know who to root for in this one. This is really
they're all
great.
terrible.
Yeah, there's no. This is a war without winners here, like World War III. Okay, so De Leon ran for mayor against Karen Bass, and he came in third against Caruso and Bass. So the underlying reason why the 3 are being forced out, Robert, is because all 3 are about to endorse Rick Caruso. I knew you'd appreciate this one.
When is their runoff?
The election is November 8th.
So the regular election.
Yeah, we already had the runoff. So both sides have been battling to get a Latino endorsement because it's an African-American woman versus a white Italian man. So De Leon was supposed to endorse Caruso, and they want him out. They wanted his endorsement. She was going to endorse one of them, and all 3 are Latinos, Robert. And in that 3 endorsements lies the election victory itself. And all 3 are now being forced out by the socialists. This is a socialist push, Robert, because they want to replace them with 3 socialist city councilmen and run the table. The city controller, who is running for city controller, who's going to win, is a socialist. The city attorney, who's running and is going to win, is a socialist. Karen Bass, the mayor who's going to win, is a socialist. They want a complete socialist city council. When Mike Bonin broke down sobbing, he's the gay guy with the black child that Nuri said was a monkey. he started sobbing and he said, we have to have 3 more socialists in these seats to achieve our utopia here in Los Angeles. And then he just kept sobbing. And that's the story that's underneath the story, Robert.
Well, speaking of which, speaking of like this victimhood idolatry, like one aspect of the insanity of the Alex Jones case, aside from just the obvious preposterousness of a $1 billion verdict,
Right.
including $90 million for an FBI agent.
Yeah, well, how does he get money?
Exactly, just because he showed up once. He was part of the FBI investigative team, and so now he gets money because that's how insane all of this is.
Wait, I'm gonna need a bigger cup of coffee for this story. Go on.
Yeah, exactly. So the effect of another part that I find disturbing is this idea that if you're a victim, you're now a moral icon. You're now a hero. You're now a champion. You now get to dictate speech. You now get to dictate gun rights. You now get to demand people pay you money. It's like a version of reparations and a version of some of those things, but it's to a whole different level. It's very much the oppression Olympics of intersectionality and all the rest, but we're now seeing it reflected and represented in political legal reality. But like here, you have somebody who's using their victimhood status. I'm gay with a blah, blah, whatever, and they called me this. It's like, so what? I mean, they used to use a lot harsher words in LA city politics, that's for sure. They do on a daily basis.
That's what they're doing with Fetterman's campaign, right? Saying he's impaired
ableist. You're ableist if you point out the dude's disabled. He's literally Uncle Festerman. Fester would make a better senator.
Why don't they just wheel people in an iron lung? I mean, what's the difference? I mean, at this point, I mean, where does competence and ableist, where does that line cross? You know what I mean?
Republican or Democrat these days. Because, like, remember when John McCain, after he had health issues, media bashed it all over the place. Can we really have a president? Also, remember he got tortured. Maybe he's still a little crazy, all that stuff.
Right.
Here you got a guy who can't talk to even a reporter without a huge computer screen transcribing what she said, and he still couldn't talk right. He got empathize different from emphasize. I mean, there's some things I get, but he was just like,
oh, come on now. Come on now. He does help Biden out a little bit. He makes Biden look spry, so there's a purpose.
That's true. That's the only thing you can say for him. And then he all he can wear is a black.
Yeah, what's with the sweatshirt collection?
Yeah, he wore that all summer.
Oh, it's because of the thing on the neck, right?
That's what it's got to be. What
he can't wear a collar with a shirt. I didn't even think about that.
Thing sticking out the side of his head.
Oh my! I didn't even realize that.
So yeah, it's just embarrassing.
What do you think's in that hump?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. I was like, well, what was the Hunchback in Notre Dame? But that wasn't real, right? That was a mythical character, wasn't it?
Well, I mean, there are real hunchbacks, and
yeah, that's true.
I can only mention
nobody wants. It's like
young Frankenstein, where he says "what hump," with Marty Feldman, where he just keeps saying "what hump," and it moves in the course of the movie. By the way, it moves from the left to the right.
That's right.
I mean, Mel Brooks would be indicted these days if he was trying to make a movie like Young Frankenstein.
He'd be indicted every other week. Blazing Saddles all the way through.
Cloris Leachman passed away while we were on vacation here a month ago. And I remember going to Peter Boyle's memorial, and Peter Boyle had passed away, and people were speaking, and all of a sudden this guy runs from the back of the room yelling, okay, I'll say something about him. And it's Mel Brooks. And he runs up on the stage and he says, let me tell you this story about Young Frankenstein. He says Peter Boyle was on the gurney as Frankenstein, handcuffed to the gurney, and he's yelling between takes at Cloris Leachman. And he says, Mel, you got to help me. And he goes up from behind the camera. He goes, what is it? And he goes, Leachman is fondling my balls between takes. I don't have to put up with this. And he yells, he says, Cloris, stop fondling his balls, and goes back behind the camera to shoot Young Frankenstein. My tribute to Cloris Leachman.
Mel Brooks is still married to what's her name, right? That crazy.
No, I think she passed away.
Oh, she did.
Yeah.
Well, I was like, that was a testament for every little nerd in the world. If Mel Brooks can hook up with her, everybody's got a future.
Yeah. But okay, so what is going on with the Trump indictment? Special master, Supreme Court throwing out the special master. I'm confused.
No, they just didn't take the case. So we had Mike Davis on Wednesday. He was really good. He predicted that. He said the Supreme Court will ultimately take the case, is his view. He's close with Gorsuch.
Oh, okay.
Mike Davis. Interesting guy across the board. Does a lot of interesting work. agreed with me about getting rid of the District of Columbia, he would take it a step further. He would bring Alexandria and Arlington back into D.C. and then strip them of all representation, which I like.
I like
The is like, let the swamp be alone. They shouldn't have their own governors, senators, mayors, etc. They can
As
be
a
governed.
Virginian, I'm okay with that.
Absolutely, a lot of people in Virginia would be okay with that.
What
They'd be
about
absolutely?
what do we do with Puerto Rico then?
That's a good question.
I know. We did an episode on Puerto Rico. We never
Yeah.
resolved the question.
I don't think that. Well, I mean, they often don't want to be a state. I mean, all their tax benefits depend on them not being a state. All their special financial welfare benefits depend on them not being a state. That's why there's a split opinion about whether to be a state or not. As opposed to a sort of a commonwealth or whatever their sort of quasi-legal status is, like Guam and some of those other places. That
they have more benefits than Guam, I think. They're a step above Guam.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And their tax benefits are extraordinary. I mean, if you do things in a certain, you just have to hope that it always stays that way, which I've always told people is a risk. But Peter Schiff is down there for that reason.
Right.
Even maybe Mark Moss might have some operations there. There's a bunch of people that have operations in Port. Now, I haven't been back since the hurricane. I mean, when I was down there, I haven't been there in a while.
I haven't been there in a while.
Food was fantastic when I was there. I was stunned at the diversity.
Oh, I love Puerto Rico. I mean, who doesn't?
The old town is great. And now it's right next. I mean, literally the tiny little most impoverished place is like right next to the wealthy area, but you have to go down to get there.
Yeah.
Because it's
Old
unprotected.
San Juan. Then they've got they've got their own rainforest, El Yunque, and I mean,
great beaches.
Yep.
I like Puerto Rico. It was a nice place. But and they have a good number of Puerto Ricans coming into the United States to New York, Florida. I mean, they actually have a voting influence, and they've always had a voting influence in New York and parts of Chicago.
Well, they did a survey of. That's why I mentioned this, because we were talking about last time about Latinos and Trump voters and the move from Latinos into the red slot. Yep. Apparently, the most far left Latinos in the United States are Puerto Ricans.
Ah, really?
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Mexicans are moving into the red, camp.
Venezuelans are definitely the other direction.
And obviously the Cubans.
Cubans are the other direction.
No, we know about the Cubans, but the other side of the spectrum politically are the Puerto Ricans.
Interesting. How good, when Al Pacino played, Last of the Puerto Ricans and Carlito's Way.
Yeah.
I actually bought it. I was like, I could buy Al Pacino as Puerto Rican.
Right. And Carlito's Way you're talking about.
Scarface, right? So he does.
Well, Benny Blanco was Leguizamo. He wasn't happy about. He wanted to work with Pacino at the time, and his manager managed Pacino, so he was able. He took the manager because he managed Pacino just so he could do Carlito's Way, and be Benny Blanco in that movie. With Sean Penn is really the great performance.
Oh, Penn is fantastic.
Yeah, that's the real steal.
Classic. If you want to catch a corrupt lawyer, you can't, I'm dealing with it currently. I got a case where the lawyer's gone completely insane. And I was telling somebody the other day, it's like every hypothetical law school exam question I've had to deal with. My client is partners with another guy in a business, right? And so the partnership has a dispute with a hotel franchise and with a bank. So his partner has separate disputes with him on separate issues, but they're being sued by the hotel franchise to collect on a franchise they're arguing whether a franchise contract breached or not. Basically, Hyatt was totally mismanaged hotels. My client got rid of them, took over it himself, and dramatically improved the quality. And now Hyatt's suing him for not keeping Hyatt in to destroy his hotel.
Wow.
But his partner they were both personally guaranteed the contract, so they're both personal defendants in the case. The lawyer for his partner thinks he's the lawyer for Hyatt and keeps disclosing attorney-client records over and over and over again in the case. Wow. He's completely insane. He's demanding I be kicked out of the case and excluded because he keeps having this delusion that, and it's like, how do you deal with a situation where it's co-defense counsel that's gone rogue, that's trying to blow up the entire case because they don't understand the basics of it's not you versus your co-defendant, it's you versus the plaintiff. Right?
I've heard this before where lawyers have switched sides. This is the sixth or seventh time I've heard this story. Even in LA, we had a condo development in back of us. So the neighborhood got a lawyer to fight the development of this condo. And then that lawyer shows up in court on the other side at the end.
That part you can't do. But what happens when the lawyer's still pretending to represent the client, but actually is representing the other side in fact, but not in law?
Wow.
Can you sever your client from it?
Wow.
I mean, there's not many precedents of this because you don't normally see a lawyer go nuts, think that their client is adverse to their co-defendant
Right.
and is allied with the person trying to bankrupt them. You don't normally see that.
Wow.
And yet that's what and he's like totally delusional, the lawyer. He finds every 5 seconds to send in more attorney-client privilege records, and you have to object right away and say, nobody look at this. And of course, Hyatt's lawyer, big DLA Piper lawyer, he can't wait to jump to benefit from this, even though that's illegal, right? You can't, like, if you're the lawyer on the opposite side and you got some rogue lawyer wanting to breach attorney-client privilege and do a bunch of crazy stuff, you cannot profit from their rogue actions. Even though it's tempting to do so, it's not ethical or legal to do so.
Hey, what's the status of the whistleblower suit, the Jackson one with Pfizer? What's going on?
The government flipped sides at the last minute. So
right. I heard you mention that. What's the deal?
I mean, basically, it's what I thought all along, is my guess. So the way these things happen is if you're a whistleblower, you see some illegality. And the two key components to the illegality are that there's government money and there's some form of fraud. And that fraud led to the government money being paid out to someone who didn't deserve it. So you see it, you bring what's called a False Claims Act. This all goes all the way back to the Civil War. I mean, this started because during the Civil War, you had so many corrupt vendors who were selling soldiers, the Union Army, like bad blankets, bad food, bad munitions, bad gun, you name it, bad housing mechanisms. Whatever it was like too cheap, run down, often unhealthy, dangerous. But the problem was the person who wrote the check was in on it with them. So the Congress was like, okay, we got to fix this, make sure this never happens again because of all the political controversy that arose afterwards. And so that's when the False Claims Act was passed. And it says, you, an ordinary person out there, if you've seen something that shows the taxpayers have been scammed, you can bring a claim. The only caveat is you have to bring it under seal initially to allow the government time to investigate whether they want to take over the case.
Right.
But so what the government did here is they kept it sealed for more than a year.
Right.
And under the guise that they're really investigating it. They're
right. But you said they never investigated anything.
No. And the way this is exposed is at the last minute, they step in and say, hey, judge, please dismiss this case entirely. Right. It's not in their interest for the case to be dismissed. There's no benefit to them at all of the case being dismissed. Institutionally. The government loses money, the chance at billions of dollars if it gets dismissed. They lose the chance to discover information. There's no reason whatsoever for it, unless the government's covering up its own complicity and government officials' key complicity in the crimes that Big Pharma has committed in this case.
Right.
And that's the most logical explanation. I mean, when Brooke first came into the case, I took over from prior counsel. This is what I suspected was happening all along. That I was like, what's happening is the government, the reason why they're delaying unsealing the case and not intervening and not delaying when they're going to intervene is because they're never going to intervene except to harm the case, because in secret, key government actors are in cahoots with Big Pharma, and they don't want them exposed for their complicity in the fraud and the scam. Imagine if everybody had Brooke Jackson's information in the fall of 2020 before these things were ever even approved formally. If they'd known that the clinical trials are a crock. That, they got needles sticking out of bags. They got people's private medical information tattooed on the walls. They got people rolling out in the wrong place in the hallways. They're supposed to be in a secure facility. They got drugs. They're giving it the wrong dose at the wrong level, at the wrong, you name it. They're not tracking anything. Chances are pretty darn good that this vaccine, so-called vaccine, never harms the number of people that are. So the government is probably one of the biggest government scandals ever, what they did in the Brooke Jackson case.
Would it be that, or would it just be the Hunter's laptop scenario and you wouldn't see it anyway?
Oh, I mean, but Brooke Jackson could have gone public with her information right away.
Right.
That's the key. Because Brooke Jackson was effectively shut up and silenced by the sealing order.
Right.
Otherwise, she would have been on every
I think the new rule is, I mean, what happened with, what's the guy's name who was partners with the Biden family, who was on Tucker?
I always get his name. I was like
Bubalinski. He's another one who turned evidence over to the FBI. Never saw it again. I mean, I don't think you could give these guys anything. You'll never see it again. Unless you have copies. What do you make of this case in Michigan where Gasson has arrested the Chinese guy who runs the company in Michigan with the storing of the servers of the voter information in China, Robert?
Yeah.
Have you been following this odd
Yeah, well,
case?
the New York Times had a story the day before he was arrested that said there's no there. And
How
then the
could
day
there be
later,
no
proof he was
there there?
arrested.
Why is he storing the information? His name is Eugene Yu. Eugene Yu from the corporation that he has a contract with Michigan of all places. But Gasson had him arrested because he had LA County voting information on the servers in China. That always
Makes you
gets me a
wonder-
little nervous.
Like, clearly the LA didn't arrest him because of whatever happened in 2020. Clearly their motivation would be very different.
Right. And a conservative voting group is the one that tipped him off. And he only did it because the conservative voting group embarrassed him into doing it, Gasson.
He must have stumbled into something that, like, whatever scandal he may have helped cover up in 2020,
Right.
may have gone the opposite
Well,
direction.
and the 2020 woman was Kathy Funk. She was the county election supervisor who got arrested for ballot tampering in Michigan. So Kathy Funk was arrested, and Eugene Yu. So now it's Funk and you. Funk and you have been arrested, Robert.
Well, you saw Elon Musk today. So the Elon Musk was like, yeah, everybody's attacking me. I'm not sure we can keep funding Starlink for you. So they put out fake news. They claim he talked to Putin about it the day before. He's like, I haven't talked to Putin in quite a while.
Right.
But the Ukrainians that can't handle any dissidents whatsoever.
Right.
Some of their people put out, that Alexander Vindman, that fake, that deep state hack who led to Trump getting impeached the first time around.
Well, did you see Zelensky's demands for $38 billion? And
it was like a long. Well,
and the laundry list. He asked for 100,000 everything bagels from H&H Bagels. I mean, come on, Robert. This is gone. I mean, this is enough already.
Well, you got some commissions guy telling Musk to F off. It's like, hold on a second. Musk made Starlink like freely available for you for like a long period of time, and you're just randomly telling the guy to F off because he proposed a peace proposal. So so then he's like, you know what? Starlink really can't stay over Ukraine. Pentagon can pay for it if they want. And someone pointed out, look, this, Musk says this after the Ukrainian government official told him to F off. Right. And Musk responded, he said, we were just accommodating his request.
Did you see
nicely played.
Did you see the takedown of AOC by those three guys up in the Bronx yesterday?
That's thanks to Tulsi Gabbard. I was telling him, like, you have these some of these right wingers that just like obsessively hate Tulsi Gabbard for whatever reason I've never fully understood. Is like she's aligned on a lot of good issues. I get you, she's not aligned on a bunch of issues, but she is on others. So why obsess over the differences? Right. But I thought that might put that in motion because Gabbard comes out and says, I'm leaving the Democratic Party. It's just
that is interesting. Party. That might have triggered that. You're thinking
it's dominated by the elites. Then she went out and endorsed Joe Kent as a Republican candidate.
Boy, she was a deer in the headlights. She didn't know what to do because they kept popping up on her.
Well, she's unaccustomed to actually being checked by her own base.
Especially in the middle of nowhere in some town hall in the South Bronx.
Yeah, I mean, and what is they show up and they start. It's like you're a fraud. You're spending all this money to promote war. Why are you doing that? That's not against.
Well, that's kind of the Aaron Mate Blumenthal wing of the party, I assume, right? Those guys,
Jimmy Dore,
the old anti-war
Jimmy Dore
wing.
Yeah.
That's mostly faded out in officialdom, but not amongst the actual voter base.
Right.
And you would tell AOC didn't know how to handle it. And instead, she's such a politics of narcissism. She's an Instagram congresswoman.
Right.
She represents Instagram. And her response was, what about this poor disabled person, this poor deaf person who's trying to talk?
Wait until she's going to set it back up again.
Yeah.
And she's going to say, we have to up the security because I was personally threatened by these misogynists who are coming at me. And so now we can't have the Q&A. No, can't have the Q&A anymore, folks. We're going to have to just drop that and restructure our meetings. I guarantee she's not going to have the same setup with a Q&A where people can ask her actual questions. They're going to be vetting.
That punctured her image. That did a lot of damage. I got to tell you.
Well, she's so fake. She's so completely
she
fake.
has been wounded, Robert. That was a mortal wound. I've never seen a wound like that inflicted on her. As they said in Raging Bull, she ain't pretty no more.
Kamala Harris, dude. He brought up Tulsi.
Kamala Harris has stumbled over.
No. But Tulsi Gabbard eviscerated Kamala Harris. That was the best mortal wound I saw prior to that.
You're talking about the future president on January 21st. So please be careful on
Give me
January
respect.
20th.
You're the respect for the show, Mark. I will look to you to respect her.
Wait till she's president before you.
Your
attack
former
her.
senator.
No,
Oh,
not
no,
a
Attorney General. Yeah, your former Attorney General. So you're right. You should defend your corrupt state
Oh,
official.
speaking of no respect for tradition, have you seen what Amazon has done? They spent $1 billion to eviscerate the Lord of the Rings and Tolkien's legacy.
Oh yeah, I'm not going to watch that. Hey, what's the deal with PayPal? Are they in? They out? What do I do now? What's the deal?
Well, Viva and I were the first to really publicly, put this on blast.
Right.
And then everybody picked it up, and so they've reversed themselves. They lost like $6 billion in market value. Had tons of people withdrawing. So I don't think you'll see them come back to it anytime real soon. But it is a general problem. I was telling people there needs to be legislation that prohibits political discrimination by major financial.
Let me tell you something. Legislation I've also been suggesting for many years. The Democrats are running 34 different intelligence operatives as candidates across the country. 34, yeah. Robert, ex-CIA, ex-military intelligence, all on the Democratic side, this particular election cycle. And I think there should be a law, like lobbyists, where either you can't do it for 10 years or you can't do it at all, because this is becoming a clusterfuck of intel people.
It's ironic too, because when people go back and watch those old public access shows that from the 70s and the 80s that had all these ex-CIA guys, and they wonder why don't we see that today? It's because they changed the law to prohibit them from talking about what they did and get specialized approval for their books, etc., beginning in the early mid-'80s.
Wow.
We should go back and scrap that law. There should be no law prohibiting people from exposing the malfeasance and misconduct they witnessed while a government agent.
Right. I mean, but also there's got to be a limit on this revolving door of them spilling into media. It's one thing with the generals.
Oh, yeah.
If you've got a security clearance, you either got to give it up or keep it and not be on CNN. I'm sorry, you can't have it both ways.
Will be interesting to see what happens with McGregor, because you have this well-regarded, well-respected military, and people have asked me, why aren't there more McGregors? It's very simple. McGregor talking out means no more defense contracts, no more board deals, no more special lobbying gigs, no institutional media checks. All that goes away the moment you start pointing out that Zelensky's probably nuts, that most of the Ukrainian military hype theories are bogus. But it's amazing the number of people who buy this. Like Steven Crowder buys the bogus Ukraine is winning kind of stories. And Tim Pool buys it repeatedly.
No, really?
He has these people on, Russia can't handle it. They're about to collapse. They're about to fall apart. Putin's terrible. Ukraine's marching onward. It's amazing the number of people who buy this. It's like,
by the way, the chancellor got fired in London today by Truss.
Oh yeah, in fact, Truss will be gone tomorrow. It'll be gone next week.
That's what I figured. Yeah,
the Duran predicted that it was going to be regime changed by next week. Both of them would be out. They're going to bring in the big globalist, one Tory globalist, and then that guy will be replaced by a labor globalist. Probably.
Eventually, they're going to run out of guys. I think these countries.
You would hope so.
How deep is the bench where you just bring in globalist after globalist?
Pretty deep.
They have to have some name recognition. You can't just bring in Murray Shiskel from the deli around the corner and say you're the prime minister now. They're going to run out of people, Robert.
You would think so, but really, what's left of the British Empire, may be dead within a decade, in its geopolitical influence. What
happened to the oil in the North Sea that the British were supposed to be using to be independent from the Russian oil? What is that minor?
Well, I don't know if you saw Putin. Putin is 5 steps ahead of these people.
I know.
It's amazing.
I know.
He talks to Erdogan, and now he's going to shift all the natural gas. He's going to just shut down both Nord Streams altogether forever, and shift it all to Turkey. And so he's going to let Erdogan control natural gas to Europe.
That's interesting.
And Erdogan, of course, is infamous for how he politically manipulates things. But watch him walk back and say, now I think about it, the Finns and the Swedes, they can't come in. No, nobody can come into NATO unless maybe send me a couple of your parliamentary people I can put in prison. Remember, Erdogan is the guy who allowed the Saudis to take out that little fake Washington Post deep state guy.
Right.
Now, how dumb do you have to be? You're sitting there bashing Saudis day in, day out. Like, okay, I'm going to go over here into the Saudi embassy in Turkey, no less, and I'm going to get my little marriage certificate. Yeah, you got a marriage certificate, pal. You came out in body parts.
They have a built-in wood chipper inside the place itself, which most of these embassies do have the wood chipper inside. But let me ask you this. The Biden goes and asks the Saudis to increase production. They say, thank you very much. We're going to reduce production. I mean,
they've been waging the Biden-Obama regime has been waging war on MBS now for half a decade.
Right.
And they never or a decade, really. They didn't like the Saudis. Trump's view was, let's align the Israelis and the royals.
Bush kissed their asses and their rings all the time, right? I mean, to the point of humiliation.
And the problem with Biden is he kind of really sided more the Obama administration, the old Arabists. Some of them, for whatever weird reason, they were anti-royal and anti-Israeli generally, contrary to a lot of popular belief out there. And we're really kind of sympathetic more with Iran, with other. This goes all the way back. Remember Carter, the State Department people that told him the Ayatollah was going to be just A-OK?
Yep.
How did that turn out?
That didn't go well.
And MBS just keeps paying him back. MBS, I mean, he wasn't happy with the CIA, Bezos, Washington Post putting that, that so-called dissident, on the Washington Post payroll. That's why he chopped him up in the embassy.
Khashoggi, right?
Khashoggi. And remember, MBS took over, and MBS purged the House. Remember, he arrested a bunch of high-ranking Saudi billionaires.
Right.
But no, it was the Ritz-Carlton arrest.
Now, this could take us back to the Las Vegas shooting, Robert.
Oh, yeah, the old Saudi regime. And
when they were up on that floor up there in the Mandalay Bay partying.
Well, Trump's whole theory was it made more sense to align with the royals, see if you can get the royals and the Israelis to cut peace, and that's a manageable geopolitical interest.
Right.
And that the Iranians are the biggest troublemaker in the Middle Eastern region.
What is Kanye West rambling on about Kushner in the Middle East, how he just bought this and he paid for it or something? What is Kanye West beef with Kushner? I don't get it.
Well, that just comes from a long dissident black opinion.
Black nationalism or something?
Yeah, a little bit of black nationalism, a little bit of the Jews.
Yeah. Well, the 12 tribes that they believe are black, there are those guys on the street corner in New York for 22 years yelling at people, that nobody ever spoke to.
And this goes back to political divide within the Democratic Party because, you go all the way back to the 60s and 70s. You had two emerging groups within big urban locations like New York and other places where you had black voters and Jewish voters competing for power.
Right.
And, that's how you get Jesse Jackson, 1984. Remember what he said when he came to New York?
Oh, yeah. We remember it. We all remember it very well, my friend.
Exactly.
This Karen Bass is an ex-Black Panther, by the way. She also visited Cuba over 28 times for reasons that nobody seems to remember.
Does LA understand what they're biting into? I mean, they're going to have more homelessness, more drug problems, more.
They have no clue. They like the way she wears her glasses, and Rick Caruso is Trump to them, and that's all that matters. I mean,
and they think of themselves in terms of, we're like the what's his face in the 60s, one of the guy who lived in Santa Monica for a while, married to Jane Fonda.
Oh, Tom Hayden, you're talking about.
Tom Hayden. It's like they're all, back to
this is my weekend recommend for the viewers at home. If you want to see how the Alex Jones trial should have gone in the courtroom, I recommend this 1987 version, not the Aaron Sorkin version. This one is by Jeremy Kagan. This was the HBO version. I recommend this for a weekend view. If you want to see how a courtroom's disrupted, watch this film.
Oh, do you have any promos, Eric?
What do you mean promo?
Ads? No, I already put it out.
There you go. Good.
No, I got you to it. I do have some super chats.
Viva try to do it. Viva's got to work on his pitch.
Oh yeah, I saw him try to do that, Robert.
He's got to upgrade this. You got to sell.
Eric recorded one for this food company. It looks very nice. Eric's got another side career.
That's how you do it. You got to pitch it good. You be like, man, it's just so good. You got to have it. You want it. You need it. You get it.
Yeah, no. That's what Eric's doing with the food company, and we got a coffee sponsor coming up possibly, and some other.
Where Viva's like apologetic that he's selling it. He's like, okay, I really like it. It's really kind of good. You could go here if you want. No. You
got to hammer it. You got to hammer it.
Yeah, absolutely. Jones knows how to sell.
We used to have a guy in New York, an Israeli guy named Crazy Eddie. And Crazy Eddie had an appliance and recording a store of equipment. And this guy would come on late night TV, Crazy Eddie, and hammer it, Robert. Made a fortune in New York. Was an Israeli. They eventually took him away for tax fraud. But that's another story for another day.
Another great part of the trial, or one of the few great parts of the trial, aside from some of the mimetic moments, was Jones started marketing right in the middle of his testimony. It was like, oh, yes, you can go to.
That's great. That's great.
I was like, that's beautiful. He's like, yeah, no. And when we do it all the press conferences together, He was like, all I know is the number one book in America is Alex Jones' The Great Reset. But find out what I really was like. That's a guy who knows how to sell.
What are the chances of appeal here? What is the?
Oh, he's got legally great appeals. They
Right.
violated
I mean, what
First
are the
Amendment
real?
rights, speaking about Second Amendment rights, Fourth Amendment privacy rights, Fifth Amendment due process rights, Seventh Amendment jury trial rights, the same jury trial rights under each state's constitution.
Yeah, I've been having fun with it on Twitter, saying the court has ordered Alex Jones to build homes in Africa now. The court has ordered Alex Jones to send money for artillery shells in Ukraine. I had it one after another of just absurd orders. Zelensky demanding Alex Jones pay him directly now for Ukrainian military. I mean, the numbers are ridiculous. $1 billion.
Totally preposterous.
Preposterous.
It's so insane as to be laughable. And their whole goal was just to shut InfoWars down. I mean, they made that clear. I mean, the plaintiff's lawyer comes out afterwards and says, basically, don't pay us, shut down Alex Jones.
How much money did Adam Lanzer's wealthy father pay the?
To my knowledge, none of the school system never had to pay for all of its failures.
Right.
Nobody connected to the family had to pay for what the kid did. Big Pharma didn't have to pay for whether they were put him on the wrong meds or any of the medical institutions.
Right.
The only one who had to pay is the gun maker and Alex Jones.
Right, but did anybody sue the Lanza family? Do you know if anybody?
Not that I know of. No,
that's what I know of either.
They came in and controlled. I mean, the two things: over 90% of the people connected to Sandy Hook never sued anybody. They didn't blame anyone else. They moved on with their lives, dealt with the trauma of it, etc.
Right.
This tiny political percentage of people who were overt political, many of their family members run for office, started NGOs to support gun control and other political causes. That's the group that supported it. And that's why the judge wouldn't allow Norm Pattis, old school Chicago 7, William Cunson.
No, he looked like a Chicago 7 guy.
Oh, yeah, he's got the ponytail, the whole
nine yards. The ponytail. I like how it attaches on the back. That's a nice touch. But the reality of it is, you have to blow through the Connecticut State Supreme Court, right?
Yeah, on all likelihood, because these are the same Connecticut courts that did nothing at all.
Right, but I mean, do you have to go there for appeals first, or
you go to Connecticut Court of Appeals, then the Connecticut Supreme Court, then the U.S. Supreme Court? But the U.S. Supreme Court doesn't have to take up the case.
Now, let me ask you something. With I'm curious about Thomas now with the 230, with Section 230 with Clarence Thomas. Is this revenge for humiliating his wife, calling her in before the January 6th? Was this a bridge too far for Clarence Thomas going after his wife?
Well, I'm sure that did bother him. He's an old family loyalty guy. If you've seen the documentary on him, he's very fond of his grandfather. He goes in an RV every summer across America to vacation. That's one of the big differences, right? Whereas your Kavanaughs and your Roberts of the world are taking planes through Europe or going up to the Hamptons.
Right.
Thomas is going out to Middle America and talking to random people at diners who don't know who he is.
Yeah,
that's what makes him one of the greatest jurists in American history.
Well, but I think Scalia was the model for him too, right? In a lot of ways, right? Or
well, I mean, I think big tech doesn't realize. I mean, you're seeing its sensitivity. Like they tried to do a strike on Robert Gouvet. A lot of people raised outrage. They had to walk it back.
Right.
They tried to take down Nick Rekieta's channel. They'd already removed. I mean, Twitter had already removed Rekieta from Twitter, so he couldn't defend himself there.
And then the PayPal blowback because of you.
I mean, there's still so much blowback on Nick Rekieta. They had to reinstate him.
Right.
And Rekieta's still going to primarily be on Rumble anyway.
Right.
You know, Rumble now has Russell Brand. Rumble has Glenn Greenwald. Viva and I are doing a lot of stuff exclusive to Rumble.
I think we're on Rumble right now, right, Eric?
Yeah, we're simul-streaming.
Simul-streaming on Rumble, yeah.
I mean, some of this competition is mattering. Some of the political blowback is mattering. And what you're seeing in the courts is the same.
Right.
The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals said Texas law prohibiting viewpoint discrimination by big tech is just fine. I think that decision will be upheld and affirmed. And the reason why the U.S. Supreme Court and why Thomas started out on this was some of us for years, Mike Davis, Internet Accountability Project, friends with Justice Gorsuch, a very smart guy, very politically active. Also, the Article 3 Project and other ones has been on this now for 4 years. Almost got it. They may get antitrust legislation through the House and the Senate, despite Jim Jordan and Mitch McConnell's attempt to block it.
Right.
Which might make it law.
Yeah. What's with Jim Jordan, bro? What's the deal here?
Oh, he's just. Yeah, I think it's two things. One, you could argue it's a principled position of favoring corporate America. Yeah, exactly. Or the other is that it just reflects he's in big tech's pocket. And so many are. When I first got into this space 5 years ago, it's like, why aren't there a bunch of legal academies saying, hey, this violates consumer rights, this violates privacy rights, this
Right.
violates speech rights, this violates. And you couldn't find any. You dug in, you found that big tech had bought off every legal academy that existed. So if there was a special tech professor at a place, he was getting all of his money from big tech. He wasn't going to go out there.
Speaking of big tech, what's with Dana White hooking up with Zuckerberg all of a sudden?
Oh, yeah, I heard he was over at UFC.
Yeah,
so,
what's the deal?
But that's because Dana White's a promoter. Dana White will use anybody to promote UFC.
Okay, all right.
He doesn't care. He's just promote.
Okay.
But his politics otherwise are good.
I know. That's why I was shocked to see that. Then I saw Zuckerberg with boxing gloves on.
Zuckerberg's in some trouble. Meta's in some trouble. There's some stock trouble.
Right.
He's in some trouble.
Right.
There's investigations pending. There's the lawsuit in Texas. And the biggest problem is just more and more consumers don't use Facebook. I mean, at least in my experience, I don't know what the audience experience is.
Well, I mean, they're phony ad numbers, or it's indefensible to get around that lawsuit because you either have phony ad numbers or you don't. You know what I'm saying?
Agree. Well, the other thing is, ask yourself, who do you know that's on Rumble, right? Who's the number one market for TV shows, movies? Now, I think they overstate it, but they want people under 35, right? Yeah. Because the logic is they'll be a customer for life rather than
18 to 34 is the demo. When I was at Lampoon, that was the demographic for all ads, every magazine ad. Speaking of magazines, did you see Jan Wenner with Joe Rogan?
I did not. Oh, the Rolling Stone guy.
Lord.
Hasn't he become terrible now, like an old wuss?
Yeah, no, but I mean, he was defending censorship on the internet, defending censorship everywhere. This is a Rolling Stone founder and
guy
owner.
who employed Hunter Thompson,
right? And he's now demanding.
Rogan, dude, he sold the magazine. He sold out. So I mean, we've talked about his deep state issues,
right? But it was just nice to watch Rogan dismantle the guy. It was
that's nice. It'd be nice. The appropriate ending of Jan Wenner would be if Hunter Thompson's ghost broke in and shot him 4 or 5 times. Not wishing death. I'm just saying that's a very Hunter Thompson-esque ending. Hunter would be high on like some range of weird drugs,
right?
And he would be convinced, as he was for a while. He was convinced Don Henley. When he was in Aspen, he was trying to convince somebody I know. He was like, Henley's a rat. Henley's definitely
he's not alone in saying that, so that is not crazy.
Really?
I've heard that from other people.
Is he? Is Henley a rat?
I don't know. I've heard that before.
Singer for the rat? Well, that'd be amazing. The lead singer for Eagles, a secret federal informant. But hey, Hunter,
they have infiltrated the rock and roll world, as Hunley and I have exposed, so that's not unusual. But
have you guys done a CIA and rock and roll show yet?
Well, we've gotten into the CIA and the media, so we've covered it.
Right. We probably will, though. We're talking about CIA and fashion as well.
There's and Winterthur.
Maybe combine you two with it.
That's what Kanye was. Robert, that's what Kanye was referring to. These so-called handlers that are in the fashion world, and Wintour and all these people, they were trying to hook up Bradley Cooper with Hillary Clinton, Umadine as a girlfriend. This is how they made them, Robert. They hooked them up with these spook women or spook guys,
Back towards the beginning. I didn't know. So Bob Ross was started in business by a couple, and the husband was a longtime CIA spook.
Right. But they're matchmakers too. They're matchmakers.
Buried in Bob Ross messaging. That I was like, I love Bob Ross. I was like, I think Bob Ross is still clean. Probably just a coincidence. But I do want to double check some of those old shows now.
If you look at those paintings for 7 minutes straight, all of a sudden an MK Ultra program is triggered by the paintings. The waterfall begins to actually have water falling, which I find to be very disturbing. If you take acid and look at the paintings, it's a double barrel action that you get going with MK Ultra and the acid.
What's amazing is how many people don't know LSD was all a CIA thing.
We've covered it quite a bit here. I mean, and Tom O'Neill covers it in Chaos.
Have you covered that little French town where everybody went crazy, where they got the contaminated bread?
Yeah, we mentioned that. I mean, that was the ergot of the bread, tripping the whole town in France.
People were like jumping into rivers and creeks.
We did Jack Parsons last week. You want to talk about a trippy hallucinogenic episode? Check out the Jack Parsons one, because he's out in the desert with Hubbard doing acid and conjuring up Babylonian women. I mean, there's
now, Eric, you interviewed that guy that did the whole Charlie Manson connection, right?
Yeah, Tom O'Neill.
Yeah. So do you think Charlie Manson was at least in part maybe an accidental side effect, maybe intentional side effect of MK Ultra projects?
Oh, he was
Yes.
handled. He was
Yeah.
yes,
He's tied to Jolly West.
Yeah, he was tied into Jolly West,
which we're doing an episode on him.
I was gonna say, yeah. Have you guys done
the Haight-Ashbury Clinic was a front, Robert. The clinic itself was a front.
That makes perfect sense.
They brought in people. They were experimenting on the people who were just random hippies.
Danny Trejo talked about Manson hypnotizing him in prison.
Well, I don't know if that's true. Danny Trejo tell a book. I mean, I know Danny Trejo, so that I don't know.
Okay, well then let us know. Go consult.
That I don't.
That
dog won't hunt. That dog won't hunt. I don't know about that. It makes an incredible taco though in LA. He's got the taco trucks roaming around. If you ever see the Danny Trejo taco trucks, flag them down because that he knows how to do. I don't know. Biden went to a friend of mine's taco place yesterday in West LA and bought a taco. So that's of interest. He knew how to do that, Robert. Because sometimes the politicians, as you know, when they go to purchase something in a restaurant, it could become befuddling. That whole experience of the political opportunity press thing with the purchase of whatever can be troubled.
No doubt.
Somebody brought up John Potash. I've had him on. John kind of goes down the path, though, that anybody who's ever walked by somebody who might be in the CIA is definitely a plant, and he's tied in. John Lennon was dosed by the CIA. Everybody was dosed. Tupac was CIA. I mean, I don't know. I think that you can go too far on that. But I want to get some super chats out here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Texas Business Podcast. Both Mark and I have been on there. And if we check out the Baylor JFK,
I'll get back to him. I saw his email. I just been a little busy.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to try to get up there, and when we go to the JFK conference at the end of November.
When is that? Right, always
November. It's the
22nd.
18th, 19th, in that weekend, and I'm going to try to get into Baylor and get some of that secret documents out of Baylor.
Okay, this is a good mission for everyone. Harvest the Yiddish words of the day for us because we don't remember.
We already did 2 of them. I mean, we can only do 1 a day. We did 2 already. Now, I'm sorry. Here's some more money. Look at this.
That's why I want to get through. There's a few of them.
Leo playing Howard Hughes? I thought he already did, didn't he? Wasn't there?
Oh yeah, he's saying Trump is not that, so he should not testify. Yeah, I don't think he's going to testify. Did he say?
Oh yeah, what do you think's going to happen? Is he going to testify?
Well, I mean, it's Trump. I mean, he could still get up there and tell him to shove off, but I can't imagine him engaging in that theater.
Okay, so will they issue an arrest warrant?
Oh, I mean, he'll show up, and my advice: show up, take the 5th.
Okay, so you think
this is a rogue committee? I would file suit too. I would at least file suit, see what happens.
Hold on,
because I mean, this January 6th committee will be dead in a few months.
Okay, so where would he testify? I don't understand. I'm trying to understand the physics of this.
Oh, so it's the January 6th committee,
right? I know that.
Testify in front of that committee.
But the committee is going to be disassembled by then, right? Or no?
By January, yeah. So that's where I would just fight it, or if you have to appear, take the 5th. I wouldn't waste my time.
All right, but what if they
crap?
Okay, because that's what Peter Navarro tried to do, and he ended up in manacles in an airport.
He just didn't take the 5th. He just refused to participate at all. So the one thing is you file suit, and then you go through and take this. Like Alex Jones, they try to set up too. Jones showed up, said 5th, and then he would randomly go off on people, and then he would say 5th.
Okay, so Trump could do that. Did Trump do that in New York already? He did the 5th.
Which one?
Did Trump go to New York and do the 5th already?
Yes, he did. He's already done it.
All right, that's what I was trying to. Okay, that's good.
I kind of like Lou Dobbs. He's an old school guy.
I like Lou Dobbs. Yeah, I was a big fan of Lou Dobbs. He was a curmudgeon.
I mean, he got trapped into covering the Dominion stuff, and they were able to get rid of him.
He went full Dominion, didn't he, Robert?
Yep.
He went full Dominion. Yeah, well, he retired.
To a border. I don't know if they did or not. I haven't seen that on the Roger Stone.
Do a borderline deep fake on Roger Stone. I don't know about that.
Roger's got a lot of interesting habits.
Yeah, he's got a lot of interesting tattoos also.
One big one.
Right.
Yep. Any thoughts on the? I don't think.
What's the deal with the invasion of Haiti? I mean,
though, I said that our army would go someplace. I predicted Africa would be our first.
Oh yeah, I remember when you said that. Africa, yeah. How about Puerto Rico?
Haiti would kind of fit, right? It's intervening to help a black community in theory.
Well, also Clinton's got the connections down there. I mean, don't forget that.
So does Sean Penn, and so do so many other actors who want to. And Scientology loves to heal.
It's amazing Sean Penn is still walking. He clearly sold out El Chapo. It's obvious he led to El Chapo's arrest.
I know.
If I were him, I'd be avoiding some of those taco trucks in LA.
Right. I mean, he's in trouble.
By the way, now, consider how much. Back to Haiti, because I'm not going to let that one go.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, because I took care. They were on the island too in Gitmo when I was with Cubans.
Right.
Clintons are so wired into Haiti. You've got Hillary wanting to make a comeback. What would be a better way to funnel a ton of money into the Clintons other than to invade Haiti?
That's what
we could keep doing. You get a nice, perfect pipeline.
They own Haiti. They own every single thing in Haiti.
They've owned it. They've owned it for forever.
Right.
I mean, that goes back to what was the Bond movie that was actually one of the better ones that had the fake Papa Doc as the lead actor?
Was
that a Pierce Brosnan one, right?
Or?
No, it was earlier than that. It was I think even it was a Roger Moore, early Roger Moore.
Roger Moore. That I don't know.
So it's in New Orleans. Like there's a New Orleans scene, and there's a New York scene, and there's a bunch of what they call it something else, but it's clearly Haiti. It's Papa Doc before Baby Doc's rule.
Right.
But they love to recycle that Haiti corruption every couple of years. And I guess every time a Democrat's been in there's been some scandal, right? There's the Clintons during Clinton's term, with going after Aristide and all that, putting him back in, then pulling him out, all that jazz. Then there's the Obama earthquake, where they used as the
earthquake that was a good one.
They robbed him out. So I guess it's Democratic time to go back into Haiti at some point. I mean, it's
such so funny if you compare the two countries together, the Dominican Republic and Haiti, you could see the difference in a successful compared to Haiti, other half of Hispaniola, the same island. I mean, I've been down to on the Dominican side a lot, and it's night and day.
Oh, and the Dominicans are obsessed with no Haitians. They are ruthless about immigration. They hate the Haitians.
Well, they had the Battle of Blood River. It didn't go well. That was a tough battle, and I think that was the last time they fought the Haitians. And the Haitians were resorting to voodoo and zombies, and the Dominicans were using Spanish-style fighting back in the day.
Okay, somebody's got a question about ranked choice voting, Robert.
I mean, I think in theory it can work. It's just people being well-educated, well-informed about it. Because what it does in theory is it promotes independent third-party candidates. Right?
You're absolutely correct in a perfect bubble, but in the real world, it's easily manipulated by phony candidates.
Oh, in the current environment, absolutely it is. And it's because a lot of conservatives don't like it, and so they refuse to learn about it. So that helps the liberals elevate it for their own purpose. The left use it for their own purpose.
I don't think that Joe Biden is going to influence him leaving on January 21st. I don't
think it'll be a choice. I think the Hunter stuff will finally come to the head.
Robert's right. The bubbling up of the Hunter stuff is to force him out. At this point. Right,
Robert? Yeah, it's just about timing. I mean, they're taking out Liz Truss with ease in UK.
January 20. I think January 21st he goes. It gives her time to finish his term and then run for 2 more terms.
Oh. I've been saying that since it started. That
I get people agitated about Netanyahu, and I've been a Netanyahu critic. Mm-hmm. Nobody internationally was going to defend Trump on the election stuff. It was clear that ship had sailed. So
I mean, they can't blame him. I mean,
now Trump blames Netanyahu.
He does.
I mean, yes. Oh, yes.
Oh, wow. Well, Netanyahu, he might be back. Netanyahu, don't count him out.
Netanyahu's it's because Israel's politics are so discombobulated internally. Right. He's the only one that's sustained anything.
I think he may be back. I think he may be.
But I mean, he's so inclined to instigate. Where I disagree with Netanyahu, I think Netanyahu has been much better on 90% of policies that measure Israel's foreign policy. Now, Netanyahu let Pfizer go mad. I mean, they did lockdowns like crazy. In fact, now he was out for part of that, but he was there for part of it.
Right.
I mean, Israel has some of the worst scandals involving what happened with. I mean, they got these tapes coming out where the Israeli doctors are like, if they ever find out what went on, we're all going to get sued into oblivion. That kind of thing.
Right.
And I think the Israeli populace will be shocked by this as it comes out over time, but it'll be more of a delayed response because the Israeli populace has much more trust and confidence in their government than most people do in most governments.
But they also have more trust and confidence in their science, which was in general. I mean, that's what took a major hit. The government changes all the time, but the science, it's earth-shattering what happened there.
Well, once was good.
What's that?
Well,
once was pretty good.
It was Leary. Leary was part of their project, but I didn't think he was part of the implementation. He was a recipient, but I don't know.
I mean, he was just flipped because he wanted to get out of jail. I mean,
there you go.
That's an answer to that question.
Remember, he was hanging out with the Hells Angels. I'll never forget, like Hunter Thompson saying, "These people are all insane. They think it's okay to hang out with Leary, and a bunch of them are hanging out with the Hells Angels." He's like, "This is not."
Well, at the beginning, the Angels and the Grateful Dead, like we covered the Grateful Dead, they had a manageable relationship.
That's why Thompson infiltrated them. He thought maybe they could be the.
Well, they were workable because they were taking acid back in the day, but when they switched to crystal meth, they became uber violent and it ended up with Altamont. That's the short answer.
Yeah, the genius of Thompson's book, The Hell's Angels, was how these guys are just I described it as two kids that an authoritarian and anti-authoritarian, a cop and a criminal,
Right.
Particularly abusive cop and a crazy criminal, are two kids with the same abusive authoritarian parent.
Right.
One kid wants to emulate and imitate and be the abusive parent. One just rebels entirely without limit or restraint against them. And Tom says this great scene where he's describing the cops and the Hell's Angels facing off when he goes, these people could easily just cross and be the other.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Tom Wolfe does not treat them with such kid gloves in Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test. He sees them a little bit more clearly and less romantically, in my opinion, than Thompson.
Like he does the Black Panthers. And yes, I will never hear the name Leonard Burns. It's Bernstein. It's Bernstein, not Bernstein.
Yeah.
Isn't that right? Not Bernstein?
Bernstein,
yeah. Well, yeah, because apparently he was big on he was going to accent it, but throughout the Electric Kool-Aid, where he's hosting the Black Panthers at the upper is like the whole that's just comedic.
One of the big fixtures in L.A. as an attorney was this Robert Geisler in the 1940s, and in the Coen Brothers movie about the screenwriting, I forget the name of the movie. They keep yelling, "Get me Geisler," and he keeps coming in saying, "It's Geisler, not Geisler. It's Geisler," and he keeps going back and forth in the movie, you know. But yeah, I mean,
Barton Fink,
yeah, in the screenwriting movie, Barton Fink, they keep getting this guy Robert Geisler, and it's a homage to the lawyer from the 40s, Robert Geisler.
What's the last movie that those brothers have done?
Gee, you got me. I can't.
They do so much great stuff. I mean, The Big Lebowski will still be my all-time favorite.
Right. Well,
Fargo.
Barton Fink's my favorite. I mean, there's
Fargo's great.
Miller's Crossing is
when Steve Buscemi's character goes and tries to find where he buried the money.
Yeah,
he forgot he's in North Dakota, so everything's just white and flat. I mean, it's like that. But my other favorite scene is where the guy gets caught trying to put the woman in the wood chipper, right?
Yeah. Well, and the wood chipper comes into American zeitgeist because of the Coen brothers.
Yeah, Fargo. Yeah,
because of Fargo.
He looks up, he sees the cop, and he's man.
That would have to have a trigger warning on it now. That would be rated X or something.
Well, and the accents too. The funny looking feller, talking about machine. And oh my god. Yeah, Fargo is freaking classic.
There's an underrated one called A Serious Man that you may want to take a look at.
That's solid. Blood Simple's good.
It's a great, of course.
Blood Simple is one of their first, wasn't it?
Yes.
The movie that is lost by the Guinness Book of World Records based on budget and box office that lost the most money in the history of filmmaking is a Coen Brothers film starring Paul Newman called The Hudsucker Proxy.
Oh,
No film has lost more money per ratio of its budget than the Hudsucker Proxy. So they have an amazing range of success and failure, the Coen brothers.
But that was a decent movie, wasn't it?
It was watchable.
I kind of liked it. It was very eclectic, though.
Also, like the one where the folk singer parody Dylan movie was unwatchable. That one was really troublesome.
I mean, I don't remember that one.
Yeah, that was a bad one.
The first season of the TV episode of Fargo was also great.
Oh God,
Bob Thornton was just
that was a great thing what they did with that. I like the second one too, though. I mean, that
the way he plays the twins off each other and other stuff was just brutal.
Yeah, no, the series was surprising because I was like, who the hell is going to take this? And what they did was brilliant. I mean, it was like, okay, so they just sort of took the area and it's like they took the movie Fargo and mixed it with True Detective.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
True Detective, the first season was marvelous. Apparently, the guy stole the whole book from a writer in Louisiana, Robert.
That makes sense.
Got caught.
It was too realistic.
HBO, he took it word for word, and HBO simply paid the guy off once he was caught. Yeah, and they just wrote him a check. And
wow, I didn't know that.
That was done. He stole the whole entire book from a guy. Now, let me ask you something. The other day, off the coast of Alaska, Russian and Chinese destroyers on patrol. What do you make of that?
I think you're going to see Russia escalate, its provocative content.
Right.
It's the same with China. You're seeing North Korea do it, send missiles over Japan.
South Korea is now asking for nuclear weapons.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me too much.
Right.
So I think you're going to see escalation along those lines.
You mean some saber rattling? Because I had predicted a long time ago.
Pure saber rattling.
Yeah, that Belgorod has now been put into the water again. the Russian massive Hunt for Red October,
Biggest
Alec Baldwin,
nuclear submarine in the
right?
world.
The Hunt for Red October Alec Baldwin case, which is coming up. The special prosecutor now giving us some information on the case, Robert. This is getting
and may actually prosecute. So that's what's nice is my prediction will still come true.
right.
I said that prosecutor will never indict Alec Baldwin.
That's true.
That
She has washed
prosecutor
her hands of it. She's turned
exactly.
it over
That was a smart move. It's like,
Yeah.
"God, I wish I
Yeah,
could
yeah.
control it, but
Yeah.
it's this other person.
Yeah, and she's she's running for election in the
Attorney General.
No, I'm talking about Andrea Reeve, the special.
Oh, yeah. Okay, sorry.
The special prosecutor is running for the House seat in New Mexico, so they figured they'd tie her up with this little minor kerfuffle.
How many House seats are there in New Mexico?
That
Is it maybe 2? Because Wyoming, I think, is 1.
It's either 2 or 4, but I thought it was 2.
Okay.
Well, this is the state house I'm talking about. The state house.
Oh, state house.
So I don't know. It's a state house state. Yeah, she's been a DA out of Clovis for 20 years, and she's jailed everybody. I mean, this is a hanging judge of a DA down there. This is not a Soros DA.
So Baldwin's probably going to get indicted.
That's what I'm thinking, Robert. So I asked
Baldwin,
her,
do you flee?
Well, I recommended that to Harvey Weinstein. Didn't take my advice. He thought I was crazy at the time, but I mean, I always recommend people flee, but obviously Eric's interviewed somebody who fled. It didn't end well for him.
John McAfee, yeah.
McAfee, yeah. He fled. But he probably got more years out of his life by fleeing.
Oh, absolutely did. He definitely did.
Right. I mean,
there's another wrinkle saying that he's still alive.
The reason I'm mentioning Harvey is now on trial today in Los Angeles Superior Court right here, Robert. Nobody's covering it. And next week or the end of the month, we're going to have the script supervisor, right, Eric, on trial suing with Gloria Allred, the Rust movie. That starts the 27th of October here in Superior Court.
And some part of a case got dismissed. I saw the headline, right?
Yes. Also, we've got the Danny Masterson rape criminal case.
Yeah. Scientology, right?
Scientology versus Scientology. I don't know who to root for in this case. Because the Karen Bass ad that Caruso is virally playing in the LA market shows Karen Bass getting an award at Scientology at their headquarters. And this ad has gone viral. And now the attorney for Danny Masterson has asked the judge to ban any reference to Scientology in the courtroom because of the Karen Bass ad that's running in LA. Yet to have a ruling on that request by the defense counsel, though.
Should be interesting. By the way, there's over 3,000 people who are watching this right now.
Right.
And we don't even have 1,000 likes.
Oh, what are they going to do? How many people on Rumble? Do they like us on Rumble? Or
I don't know. I mean, I'm wondering why.
You got any Rumble rants? I know that David really stays focused on the Rumble rants during your show.
I know. I haven't seen any Rumble rants as of yet, but I'm hoping. I'm looking. Happy to find out. But I'm just asking for a like. I mean, you just hit it. It's free. Little button there.
Okay. So what do you think the October surprise is going to be, Robert? Is it military? Is it political? Is it economic? I mean, is there no October surprise?
I think they convinced themselves they're going to do okay.
Yeah.
And so they backed off of anything because now it's kind of late in the game. I mean, you can still have something in the last 2 weeks, but it's hard for that to really move a lot of stuff. They unleashed what they could against Herschel Walker.
Right.
I don't think that's ultimately. I thought their timing was bad. They would have been better off unleashing that the week. But it's because of mail-in voting. So like the old days of when you would put out a bad story to hammer your client or hammer your opponent was the weekend before. You'd want it to hit the Sunday news cycle in the local town with the election coming up on Tuesday because everybody only voted on Tuesday, right? And you'd want very little time for the other candidate to be able to react, to be able to deal with it. So you say whatever your dirt is, your explosive scandal for the last possible minute. I mean, this was true even in 2016, which had a lot of early voting with Clinton. I mean, some of that, but they had to unleash it a little bit earlier with Trump. It was around October 8th, 9th, the Access Hollywood tape broke because of early voting. And so because of all the early voting and the mail-in voting and all the rest, they're now forced to try to hammer a candidate about a month before the election.
month before, yeah.
And the problem is then that gives time for the electorate to absorb it and discard it.
Right.
It also gives time for the candidate to respond and react. And I don't think it nets enough benefit. You get a little dip in the polls, that's entirely about enthusiasm, not about actual changing of minds. You get a little bit of edge on campaign funding generally, a little bit of media cycle edge, but then it's gone within a week or so. And so I think that it's hard to do an October surprise in the same way anymore.
Well, let's look at what about the military October surprise? Apparently, the U.S. Army now moving into Wiesbaden, Germany, setting up a command and control operation, citing some clause in the post-World War II occupation contract with Germany, where the fine print says, we don't have to tell you anything, nanny goat. It actually says nanny goat. And they moved in to set up their operation and control thing in Wiesbaden. I think without German permission, without the Germans even acknowledging it.
My hunch is that the bigger risk is actually post-elections.
Right.
So that instead, because of a reaction, in other words, you might get some military or intelligence apparatus want to seize or continue power in some arena away from the newly elected officials, and do so by staging something. Because like some people's interpretation of Biden's meandering nuclear Armageddon to actually be Biden recognizing what more and more people in even the intelligence apparatus are recognizing, which is that they got to have an exit plan, like Kissinger says, for Ukraine.
Right.
And there's people who don't want that. And it's probably not a coincidence. He announced he's going to run in 2024, makes that nuclear Armageddon comment. The next day, Washington Post, which is now, it's interesting, Washington Post has replaced the New York Times as the leading CIA front piece.
Well, it's closer to home. It's right over there. You can walk to work. I mean, come on. Let me ask you something. Is there a potential for a nuclear false flag in Ukraine?
Only at a nuclear reactor and only by Ukraine creating the sabotage.
Right. So well, that's a given. But is it the nuclear reactor that's really the target? They've obviously targeted it before.
Well, apparently, Zelensky has told people about trying to do a nuclear dirty bomb, and I mean, just insane. This is why McGregor was on saying this guy's insane. He's completely insane. We should not be doing business with him, not be in bed with him, not have anything with him.
Now he's upset that they're stepping on his coke and they're cutting it. I mean, that's not. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Indeed.
He now wants uncut cocaine. I mean, come on.
It's just different. Well, we're living in interesting times. I mean, it's a major break in the global power structure.
Right.
Because
they're civilization, end of humanity, aliens and UFOs, dogs and cats living together. I mean, what are we looking at here?
Exactly.
Okay, we interrupt this broadcast, Mark. You asked, and people delivered.
What?
We have 5 Rumble rants as of now.
Oh, I know. As soon as I said it.
Send in the cash.
Let's go.
Rumble
rants. Let's go.
Let me read off some here. Tech Crisis sent us $5. Here's a rant for the good fun. Started it out. Thingamajorge says, here you go with $5. Thank you much.
Right on, Thingamajorge.
Joe Schmo, 1 of 3 with $20. Thank you.
Bravo.
Get you some honey on Rumble. You're welcome, Eric. Love Barnes and Mark. 80% freak, only 80%, not a full freak, okay? Mm-hmm. I normally watch you guys on YouTube, but I just found your channel on Rumble. Here's to freedom of speech.
Wow.
And then Big Nad, or BLG Nad, here you go. I came over to Rumble just to rumble you and leave a rant. So thank you very much.
They have crazier names on Rumble than the YouTube people have. I've noticed that.
And sometimes people ask why you have to go to like the laptop, the web interface for Rumble rants. It's because on the app, Apple or Google would take 30% on top.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The thing is, though, Mark, not Mark, sorry, Robert, that's still kind of weak sauce, and I hope they change it, because even though there is the 30% tax plus the 20% tax on Rumble, 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing. And when you have 80% of the audience plus, if you look at the stats, who watch this on their phones or listen to it on the phones, it really does cut deeply.
Wow, that's interesting. So everybody else has to make up for it. So everybody else send in their super chat.
Come on, you people at home. What if they subscribe to the channel, Eric? Does that help us?
Everything helps. I mean, you don't have to give money. I mean, a like helps. A subscribe obviously helps. Tell a friend. That's free. Please.
Tell a friend. Yeah. Don't tell it to the man, because they'll stick it to us. I mean,
I don't know. As long as they pay.
If they find out we're doing this.
That's fine. So you're saying that people, is that in general, particularly to this show, particular other shows, what percentage access YouTube or Rumble online on their phones versus through the. Now you could watch it still through your internet app on your phone, right?
Yeah, you can watch it on both, but it is true that if people donate through the app on their phone, that Apple will take 30% or Google will take 30%, and then whatever Rumble takes. But it's still, there's a lot of money out there.
I get your logic. I'm saying I didn't know it was that high.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Is that across the board or specific to?
Well, I'm speaking probably more YouTube numbers, but I'm sure Rumble's not that different. It's the same basic audience. And by the way, to Rumble's credit, I've been using it more and more on the app because my YouTube app is garbage and it's pissing me off to no end. Every time I play it, well, when I start playing a video, I'll be listening to it because I always put it in my pocket. And then I don't hear anything. So then I pick it up and I see this scrubbing and it's like fast forwarding, going random. And I'm like, what the? And I hit it and then it like jumps back 4 minutes and I'm trying to find my place again. And that never happens on Rumble. So kudos on that.
Like, I almost never use my phone for YouTube or Rumble, but you're saying most people do.
By far. It's a very large number. And I do think it's around 80% or more. So it cuts the market and the income so deeply.
I just want to tell Robert about this story out here while we have him. We have a Congressman Schiff who represents me, Adam Schiff. I'm in his.
You have all the winners.
I have all the winners here. Adam Schiff had to debate his opponent, and he got his clock cleaned by all accounts by his opponent in this debate in Glendale. Which is part of his district. He had to come home. The candidate that debated him and was victorious the candidate's name is Maybe a Girl. And that's the legal name of the candidate who ran 4 years ago. I remember her running. It's a tranny stripper sex worker who changed her name to Maybe, letter B, a girl. And we had flyers and lawn signs all over LA 4 years ago when she ran for the school board or something. And now she's running for Congress and apparently debated Adam Schiff to a draw or to a victory in Glendale the other night, not covered by mainstream media. And the other story was the kids, or what I'm calling the Taliban kids, who threw cans of red soup this morning in the National Gallery in London onto paintings by various artists and glue their hands to the wall soon afterwards. I don't know if you've seen that video. They are part of the terrorist group, Robert, that's for climate change, anti-fossil fuel group.
If you saw today, right? You saw the painting, what they did?
Yeah, that's what I'm referring to. Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Can you imagine? They actually had a whole media set up there. So the museum was
yeah. Then they glued their hands to the wall.
Destroying their own historic art.
Yep. Amazing destruction, just like the Taliban used to do when they were blowing up those statues.
Oh, you know who did that before, of course, quite famously? The Cultural Revolution in China.
Right. That's where they got it. That's where they're getting this from.
Their own legacy.
This is from Mao's wife. This is what they did. And they're doing it all across Western Europe. And here they glued their hands to the court in a basketball game. I believe the owner of the basketball team owned a chicken farm, and they didn't like the way he was treating the chickens. So they ran out and glued their hands.
How do they remove them from?
I don't know. I think there's some acetone you can use to get that crazy glue off.
You know, remember old George Wallace's speech? He goes, you remember they were laying down in front of Nixon's car, like he goes, I can tell you something right now. Next time you lay down in front of my car will be the last car you lay down in front of. You know, it's all that. That's how Wallace. It was the Cultural Revolution, not civil rights, that drove Wallace to national fame.
Right.
That plus he goes, I got a couple of 4-letter words for you. WORK and
I remember that one. Right. I remember that when he'd spell out the words.
Yes. Yeah. Working soap. I'm gonna give you some working soap.
Soap was another one. Remember the thing by Reagan? He goes, it's like Tarzan and Jane. They smell like Tarzan. They swing like Jane or something.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
They look like Tarzan, but they play like Jane.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, all that. I mean, what blew up Wallace, what really screwed him, ironically,
was Arthur Bremer.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's that guy shooting him. But before that, It was really Bombs Away LeMay.
Oh,
He thought,
Oh, no.
hey,
Yeah.
I'm going to appoint this general. People will
Yep.
take me seriously now.
Yep.
I'll be a real presidential candidate. And you see Wallace in all those press conferences trying to explain he didn't really mean that. He didn't really mean he wanted to nuke everybody. Yes, he did.
Yes, he did. He loved bombing stuff, LeMay.
Bombs Away LeMay.
Yeah, I'm reading like 4 books on LeMay simultaneously. One of them is autobiography. But strange childhood. Let me just put it that way. You'll be hearing.
You see what Purdue. This was a guy that loved firebombing Tokyo.
Oh yeah.
He saw the nukes is no big deal.
I think he was blowing up animals at an early age. And a lot of guys do this. They put firecrackers in a cat's mouth and stuff like that.
Well, it's a triad: bedwetting, starting fires, and
animal torture
and screwing.
Animal torture. Yeah.
That literally is the serial killer triad.
Oh yeah, the serial killer.
A lot of ties to that. Sorry, go ahead.
I had a friend. I had a friend who set his room on fire in Brooklyn, and then the fire department came, and 100 people standing outside, and he's down there, and he's going, "I did that," like proudly telling me that he did it. He set his own bedroom on fire, but he was also, it was Gary Grossberg was his name. He also went down to Flatbush Avenue with a hacksaw brilliantly and sawed off 20 heads of parking meters in broad daylight at the age of 12 and brought him back to his bedroom and smashed him open with a sledgehammer, Robert.
Well, there's different ways to earn money and get an income.
But I think you're right. He was on a road to serial killerism. He ended up in Rikers Island. So I don't know what happened to him after that. Hey, does Bolsonaro have a chance down there in the runoff?
Yeah, the polls seem to show him coming back. So
I know,
yeah,
I saw that.
Yeah.
Because they had him as a 20-point underwater underdog at one point.
Yeah,
wow.
I mean, I think it's, people in Brazil are not yet ready to fully take back Lula, and I think they are mostly happy in many respects with what Bolsonaro was trying to do.
Well, that would be some upset down there, huh, Robert?
Oh, absolutely.
What do you got up in New Hampshire? You got anything going on up there? What's your gut telling you?
I think it's too many Yankees moved up there. Too many Vermonters moved into New Hampshire. They're from northern Massachusetts, and I think they've changed the politics of the state in ways that make it real. The Republicans will do well at the state level,
right?
But not necessarily the Senate level.
And what do you think about Wisconsin?
Oh, that's going to go Republican.
Right.
Ron Johnson will win pretty easily, I think, and a governor will be a Republican governor.
And what about?
And it'll be a Republican state legislature too, and Republicans will pick up a House seat or two.
Even people in Philadelphia, Democrats are flipping, I think, and going for Oz, from what I'm hearing.
Oh, yeah. I think the more Uncle Festerman gets publicly exposed, that's just a no-go.
Right.
And the hope is that Mastriano can, despite a monetary gap, make up the gap.
Right.
So I'm not a fan of Shapiro at all.
Right. And what about Arizona? You think Lake and
Blake Masters definitely in, I think. And Kerry Lake, I think definitely in.
Right.
So I think Herschel Walker takes Georgia. I think
they're going to steal that from Herschel Walker. I see corruption.
I think they want to, but I don't think they're going to be able to. Because Georgia did pass a bunch of good election law reforms.
Okay,
they sued. They tried to stop those reforms, but they were unsuccessful. Even a liberal court rejected Stacey Abrams.
Well, I certainly hope so.
Yeah, we got more Rumble rants coming in if you're.
All right.
Let's support Rumble. Let's go Rumble.
All right, Ian Max and $10. Always very entertaining when you three get together. Loaded up on bets for Biden to not finish first term.
Right.
As soon as he got in. So let's go, Brandon.
Let's go.
Touch the Riot. Big fan, you guys. Here's my RR to support you. I watch on my desktop. Alex Davy Duke. Add my rant. The Freeform Fridays is the best. Agreed. Barnes appears a lot of places, but Barnes will have to say, for the record, that Freeform Fridays are his favorite spot.
Oh, Freeform Fridays are always my favorite.
And okay, take two. We'll record that one. Take two. Okay, go again, Bob. That was good. Go again. Let's take it again.
Exactly.
All right, Karen Natoff. I listen to on my phone at work or driving home until I get up at 6. Last Coen Brothers movie was Ballad of Buster Scruggs, exclusive on Netflix.
Oh, right.
That was solid, not spectacular.
That was solid. Did you see our Mickey Cohen episode, by the way, Robert?
Yeah, that was good.
I like that. I knew you liked it. Yeah, dude,
we're working. I love James Ellroy. He makes many appearances.
We're working on a Mickey Cohen project now, so you may see more. It might be a series we're working on. I started with Legs McNeil 20 years ago. We couldn't get it going. Legs McNeil, my roommate at the time, who wrote Please Kill Me, the definitive book on the history of punk music. If you want to read a great book on punk, read Please Kill Me, the Legs McNeil book. But we had tried to get a Mickey Cohen thing going 20 years ago. So now we're going to dive back in, me and a couple other guys, and see if we can get a Mickey Cohen thing going.
Ah, cool.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we got super chats here. I don't want to leave.
Okay. What do you got?
These you could see.
Like I see these. Yeah.
Anyway, why does Biden have the extra microphone now when he talks?
He
Biden
does?
microphone weird.
I didn't notice that part.
I
I
didn't
just
notice
noticed him
that.
rambling. Well, he is Puerto Rican. He said he grew up poor. He was raised by Puerto Ricans this past
Dude,
month.
where does he get
And
this
his son
stories
Bo,
from?
who died his Bo has now died in like 6 different ways. Now
Well,
he died in Iraq.
how about being in Robben Island with Mandela?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if you're going to lie, just make up the biggest cock and bull stories you can come up with.
Make it up.
He mud wrestled with Hitler? I mean, come on.
Oh, my favorite Halloween outfit, great cartoon,
What?
is this little kid's walking out, and the little kid's totally naked, but with some glasses and some white powder and a gun. And the mom's like, no, you cannot go as Hunter Biden this year.
That's funny. That's funny. Hold on. What's this one say? When Puerto Rican sovereignty is questioned, usually you get German-made lead spitters and bombs. What is this?
Your Lugers.
Oh,
You were talking about the Lugers.
Oh,
In our
right.
episode. Think about it. This is somebody who's watching the show.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know about Ojeda, but they can be a violent people. What has happened to Speaker for committees to get going? What has to happen?
You mean the new? I mean, it'll depend on who this new speaker is in the 2023, if that's what you mean.
Oh, you're talking about for the Republican side?
Yeah, I mean, if I assume that's what if they're Pelosi.
I assume it's going to be McCarthy, right? Or no?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think.
Thanks for the super sticker.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is kind of a redundancy here. Was Zelensky always a psychopathic narcissist? Well,
I don't know if you saw.
All psychopaths are narcissists.
Did you see all the recent? Like we've speculated that he's on a green screen. There's now a documentary film company. He's so obsessed.
He's a hologram.
So proud.
Yeah.
That it's massive green screen.
Right.
Everything's a green screen. It's like got 25. It's Hollywood style.
Right.
I mean,
what they're trying to promote is the dictator who needs a green screen market. So they're they're pulling back the curtain. Right. You too can be a dictator and
you can pretend to be in the streets fighting for justice.
Right. Here are many of our backgrounds that we offer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean that's got to be a new thing, right? I mean,
it's got to be. I mean, unless he's so Hollywood.
But maybe the moon landing was fake. Maybe all was.
Who knows? Yeah.
Did you see what's his name? He kind of blurted out weird stuff at something recently. It's one of the guys who landed on the moon.
Buzz Aldrin.
Apparently, he said something that sounded like he didn't land on the moon. I think he did land on the moon.
Buzz Aldrin's a little crazy.
That's it. Buzz Aldrin.
He's a little nuts.
He's sounding like Joe Biden these days.
Well, don't question him. He'll punch you. Okay.
He'll punch you right in the face if you question it.
Jimmy
Bob in the house.
Oh, hell yeah. But look at this.
Let's go, Jimmy Bob. Look at this. JJ
is a bigger tipper than Joe Biden.
Right.
There you go.
And thank you again, Jimmy Bob. I didn't want to.
Jimmy Bob.
Those really appreciate that.
He's squirrel hunting in Shreveport.
And Judy Pratt with $5. Thank you.
Yeah, she's here a lot. Mark
Bango Skank watched the Born on 4th of July last night. Any dish on Ron Kovic?
No, I mean, that was basically a true story. I mean, Kovic went down to Mexico. I mean, Oliver and Kovic had a pretty tight relationship. But one of the things that was of interest was Abby Hoffman playing the leader of the protest up at Syracuse at the end. And then Abby died shortly after the film was released. And Oliver dedicated the film to Abby Hoffman. He plays himself, in other words, in a riot
I didn't
scene.
know that.
Yeah, he plays himself, and Kovic's wheelchair gets turned over in the riot up at Syracuse. I don't think they shot it at Syracuse, but it was supposed to be at Syracuse.
Wow. And a couple more Rumble rants snuck in. This is a good.
It's a good Rumble day. It's a good Rumble day.
I'm telling you, it's awesome. Let me see. You're reading YouTube too. Send a spicy one, which I read. Thank you. Joe Schmo, 1 of 3 for $5. Question for Mark. Are you still writing or editing for publications, working on a book, or just having fun making video content?
All 3. All of them.
Right.
Yeah, it's all of them.
Short, fat, bald, ugly guy for $5. Question for Robert. Any insight on the Minnesota governor race?
I think a Republican might be able to make a run there. It's a very Democratic state currently, but that's the latest story from Minnesota. Yeah, Oregon too. Oregon may elect a Republican governor.
Did you see the medical students had to take the woke oath to get their medical degrees? They had to bow down and take the woke oath of
they're trying to impose that in various bar associations too.
Wow.
Various state
that
bars.
looked like the creepiest thing I've ever seen, Robert.
Completely.
Well,
amazing, and this accelerated and escalated.
Well,
so fast.
Newsom signed the bill giving him autonomy to take away medical licenses from doctors here.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean
It's
that
gonna be
got sued on
What's
right
that?
away. There's several lawsuits challenging that, thankfully.
Right.
But yes, it's insanity. It's just open
total
overt
insanity.
All right. Tech Crisis wants to know if you can tell Rumble to auto turn off 2x speed when you get back to live.
Okay.
I guess that's being
all those
worked
things
on.
are Eric questions, not me.
Yeah, I don't know how that works.
Oh, I don't have the technical hookup with Rumble, guys. I wouldn't know.
Yeah, you can just let Viva know. Viva
because Viva's got the connection.
Viva's got all the juice.
Aren't we trending now on Rumble?
He was at that big New York party overlooking Times Square.
Oh, locals. We're
trending on locals now.
We're officially one of the trending locals.
We're trending, Robert.
Oh, you're trending, Eric. There you go. Boom. You're hot.
Wow, we almost have 10,000 members, right, Eric?
Yeah, we're up there with Russell Brand, Viva and Barnes, and all these other channels on that.
There you go.
God, I love locals.
Premium. Well, you guys provide great insight, great content. You get a lot of Grobert's insights.
You're right.
You got a lot of Eric's, sitting there grilling, talking, giving the inside dirt, all the scandals and everybody. It's all good.
You're killing me, Robert, because now it's like I've got to talk about this shit tomorrow, which I was trying to avoid.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah.
So you're going to be tuning in, just sitting there snickering.
I won't be. I'll even live chat in there.
Yeah, get in there live with the grill.
Like, what is Eric covering up? Why is he hiding the CIA ties?
Well, why not?
Hey, are you going to be at our mutual friend's wedding coming up in November?
Who? No! I heard about it. I thought that was this month.
And I don't. Sure it's November.
Where is it?
I hope so, because I promised him I would be there. But
if you want to meet up with me and Eric, we're going to be at the JFK conference in Dallas
in November,
18th and 19th.
You're both going to be there.
Yes. We're both going to be there together at the JFK thing. Hopefully, interviewing some of the weirder people surrounding the JFK research community.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting.
Come on down if you can't.
Yeah, they're going to be screening Destiny Betrayed. The Oliver Stone film is going to be screened. Cyril Wecht is going to be featured for this conference, and it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good one.
Jim Eugenio will be there, right?
Eugenio is going to be there, and also Max Good, the director of the Ruth Payne film, is going to be there screening his Ruth Payne documentary.
Sweet.
So it's going to be a lot of good stuff.
Do you get how much do you get people that are really well informed, well involved, versus how much do you get Daryl Brooks, sovereign citizen kind of stuff?
These people most of the attendees know the genre pretty well. Yeah,
most of them, they're more legit crew.
Yeah, this is this particular conference they are. There's other spin-off weirder conferences where it's the nuttier fringe element, but this conference we're going to, I think they're doing it over 20 years now.
Well, this is Cyril Wecht's conference.
Yeah, this is
his organization.
Right. Well, you notice the media doesn't want to cover the black guy being the sovereign citizen guy in the Daryl Brooks case, right? Because it goes against the idea that this is an Idaho militia. No, it's across the board. But I mean, I still think he's nuts, and not nuts in the way to avoid accountability criminally. Nuts to where I don't think he's doing himself a service. I don't think he's competent defender of himself. Put it that way.
Yeah, Rob was talking about that earlier. That while everybody's talking about the antics, Rob was saying if you watch him on the side, he's like you're watching somebody dissembling and breaking down, like weeping randomly, and that there's genuinely something very.
When people kind of admit, it's always the reality of these kind of random killers. The way these people are mentally not there. I'm yet to study, review a case where I thought, oh, this was someone who really thought through carefully, but outside of your political terrorism,
other than Ted Bundy.
Yes. Now Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy was.
He did a good job in court.
He did a great job.
Ted Bundy was also very rare because he was both a chaotic psychopath and a planned psychopath.
Right.
Like most psychopaths, either were like real disciplined murders,
organized, disorganized. I think you're.
Disorganized and spontaneous kind of murder. He was both. He managed to do both.
I think he dissembled though, Robert, because if you look at the Bundy track, it was interesting because he was very, very extremely organized, but then. Toward the end, he jumped out the window in Colorado. Right. Remember that in the courthouse and then escaped.
He went through the roof one time.
Right. But where did he go? Where did he wind up?
He went up in the mountains. He wound
up in Florida. where they
that
had
was
a
the
death
second time.
penalty.
There were
No,
two-
that's when he
two
was
escapes.
dissembling.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that there was a part of Ted Bundy that seemed to want to get caught and get executed. He managed to put himself into one place
That could be.
because in Utah and Colorado, he would never have been executed. He
a
would
lot
have
of these
slid through.
people just had extremely disturbed childhoods.
Right.
And they're
Right.
people who you get inside that. I think there was that movie with Jennifer Lopez, maybe there was in it. What's his name? The actor, where she's inside his head, a psychopath's head. And what you see is mostly disturbed chaos of one type or another.
Right.
It's not like you're. There's some that are
Let me
really
ask
well
something.
trained and
With
disciplined,
the guy who ran everybody over, the case where he's defending himself.
that's this case, Daryl Brooks.
Right. Okay. Getting just for that. Does the judge have to allow that or no?
Only if she finds. Here's my criticism.
Right.
The courts have so lowered the standard of insanity,
Right.
and at the same time, they've lowered the standards of competence. And I'm conflicted on the issue of competence because
Well, forget about competence, for instance. Like Bobby Seale, Judge Hoffman wouldn't allow Bobby Seale to represent himself.
Yeah, and that's probably legal error.
Okay.
Because Bobby Seale was you're constitutionally entitled to defend to
That's
choose
what
your own
Seale
counsel.
was saying before he was bound and gagged
He was right.
in the chair. He must have been right.
Oh yeah, he was, and there was no reason why he couldn't. Now,
Okay.
you as a court can limit disruptive conduct. You can require he only ask questions rather than give speeches and testimony, etc. But you're supposed to find also that he's competent, competent to help a lawyer or competent to defend himself.
What about the judge assigning, in this case, it was Kunstler to be his lawyer, and Kunstler said, "I'm not his lawyer."
Right.
The judge kept saying,
"Can't really do that." The judge can assign, like these days, a public defender to assist and to be available to assist,
right,
or any other lawyer to be available to assist. But that's all. And so he was trying to impose this short circuit the system.
Right.
And most lawyers, unlike Kunstler, would not push back. Kunstler did.
He did. Yeah. Okay. Good. All right.
That's what was it? 13 contempt charges. People forget Kunstler was supposed to go to prison for years.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But he was willing to gamble on that.
13 charges of contempt. Yeah.
He
And not to mention
gamble.
the fines also.
That was bankrupting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we got one more Rumble rant. Big tip: don't fry bacon naked, from Captain Hamilton for $20.
Dude, I'm telling you, the Rumble people have better names than the YouTube people.
I love it. And look, I mean, I keep talking about it, so please keep proving me wrong, because people are like, why don't you do Rumble first? It's like, because I've been on Rumble for over 2 years and I still haven't crossed $200. So today I've crossed $200 in the entire time I've been there. But there is a reality. Well, I want Rumble to succeed. I want Rumble to take over. I'm just trying to be realistic. Like, I still have a day job.
Robert, the next time we're going to see you is November 4th, the Friday before the election. Ooh. So that'll be a great opportunity to see what's going to happen Tuesday, if you're available November 4th.
Oh, yeah.
That would be fantastic. We'll have Robert's pre-election freeform Friday, which will be great for everyone to see if Robert's accurate. Hopefully he is. And
we'll find out.
We'll find out in a couple of days after that. The red wave, hopefully. Now you're going to stick with 245 roughly is what you're.
245, at least 240 House seats. Okay. I think it more likely not across it gets to 250. And in the Senate, 52 to 53 Senate seats.
Right.
And in the and governors, over 30 governorships. So I think it's going to be a pretty big Republican sweep.
Is that a red wave?
Well, effectively, yes, because it will change the power of the Senate, in particular, and change the power of the House.
Right. So. Let me ask you this: Can the Attorney General of the United States be impeached?
Oh, absolutely. Okay. Now, what will likely happen is they'll impeach some people in the House, won't convict in the Senate because they won't get to 2/3.
Right. Actually, true. Right. I forgot.
But they'll make good political points in the process.
Yes, which is what I'm waiting for. I don't have much to live for, but I'm living for that. That's something to live for at this point. And what is this here?
Somebody's talking about Ojeda bombed a bunch of Marines in Puerto Rico. Apparently, some bad pictures. I don't want to go too deep on that. We're still on YouTube. Robert's predictions for Michigan.
I'm hoping that Dixon makes a run and Whitmer loses, but she's more of an underdog than the other states.
Whitman is ahead now.
Whitmer, at least in the polls, has been. Dixon's more really unknown.
Right.
And Michigan leans a little more Democratic than Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Arizona.
Right. Okay.
Here's a good question. Let's say the Republicans win. Do you get rid of McConnell, and how?
I think McConnell's stepping down in 2023 at least by 2024, because what's going to happen is there's going to be a Kentucky governor's race. Republicans likely to win. McConnell will step down in exchange for the governor anointing his favorite to replace him.
Oh, so it's a barter
great.
deal.
So,
You're saying he's going to barter that out.
So that's why McConnell doesn't care these days, because he knows he's gone in a year or so.
How big is McConnell's war chest, Robert?
It's kind of big. I mean, his wife's is the real money.
Right.
You're
saying his wife, who
China
happens to
connections.
You're saying that she's Chinese, is what you're saying.
Her father's a huge shipping.
You're saying her father. Your father.
Trap.
You're saying her father has ties to the Chinese Communist Party.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, you can't make money.
Just want to go on the
China
record, right? I mean, I
absolutely.
know
That's what Trump is referring to. Like, what is he talking about?
Right.
McConnell makes all of his money through his wife. His wife is ridiculously wealthy.
Well, it didn't stop him from making her Secretary of Transportation.
I know that's on Trump.
Right.
That's Trump makes all these criticisms. They're implicitly criticisms of all the bad appointings he made.
By the way, I have to point out an irony. I told this to Mark the other day.
What?
Trump's biggest downfall is that he can't hire for shit, but is most well known for a show that the premise of it was to hire somebody
and fire
I know.
And fire him.
And in construction and marketing, he was good on that.
Yeah.
He hired some of the first women that were really talented in certain spaces. He didn't care. He didn't care about limitations. Mostly good at the casinos, a little hit or miss, but they got some unique employer. But I mean, this is a guy who managed to navigate both the New York City political apparatus and the New York City organized crime.
And the Howard Stern show many times. And Howard Stern.
Oh, he lived on Howard Stern.
All the rest.
I mean, he had all his ex-girlfriends calling in. He was able to navigate.
He was kind of intimidated by the political arena once he got to actual elected office. And he went with resume. He himself said, never hire based on resume, hire based on instinct. When he was in the White House, 90% of his hires were resume hires.
Yes,
Mark, Edward Bennett Williams.
An attorney. I mean, you just would have to get into his cases, which we're not going to be able to do on the show. I mean, Edward Bennett Williams is only as good as the cases that he was handling.
We could do a special sub-series of corrupt interesting lawyers.
Right.
Well, you got that one that Mark talks about in Dallas, and what was it? Every case got overturned.
And not John Candy. Maybe it was John. Who was it that played that great New Orleans lawyer in the Kennedy assassination case? The actor. I don't know nothing. That
was John Candy who played.
Candy. That was John Candy.
That lawyer is classic. Like that guy's right out.
You've seen the real footage of him, right?
Yeah.
I was
like, that guy is really that guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just John Candy wasn't exaggerating anything. It was
no. He nailed that guy. He nailed it. Tuned in late from Melbourne. Welcome, Melbourne.
Okay, they're talking about Pelosi's daughter.
That's somebody else. Earlier.
That's Robert. That's who I said to you. Got the video footage. Her own daughter. Remember?
Of course.
Yeah, that's where she was
did a documentary. Did George W. Bush let her do and all that years ago?
Right. A very small character, but interesting guy. That's for sure. Otto is very interesting. Hunley hardly smiles. Is he alive? That's just the way Hunley is.
He smiles whenever he sees the super chat.
When he sees the super chat, boy, he lights up like a Christmas tree.
Either that or when I get my government checks, right?
Or when he gets his HelloFresh food in the mail. He gets 80 boxes of HelloFresh food.
It was amazing. I was like, the most emotionally impactful I've ever seen Eric get was when Mark was given the story of the guy who traveled out there and all the rest and traveled back and from France and all that. Like Hunley was all broken up. I was like, okay, I gotta watch.
Oh no, that was an emotional story.
Totally cool,
that's because that son of a bitch.
I made him cry, Robert. I made a grown man cry with a story.
Live on TV, guys.
Live on TV. That's the power. That's the power of storytelling, man.
Yeah, and sure as shit on the grill stream. All of a sudden, there's Barnes in the chat. So, are we going to talk about Hunley pouring out Niagara Falls?
Right. He's grilling up onions, trying to replicate the crying with the onions.
Yep. My soul is refreshed that day.
Okay.
Eric the Gray, Rumble Rant. Mark, I'm sure you have met James Elroy. Does he really believe the conspiracy
theory? I have never met
theory?
James Elroy, and I don't know what he believes. I think he's a lone nutter, from what I understand. Not a lone nutter. He's someone who believes that Oswald was a shooter involved in the conspiracy. And I greatly
no, his theory is mostly yours. The only difference is he's a little more critical of the Kennedys. So the American Tabloid Trilogy is where he lays out his theory.
Right, but doesn't he believe that Oswald was part of the conspiracy and there were others?
No, he was a patsy.
But he was a shooter.
I don't think he has him as the shooter or as a
Yeah,
shooter.
I'm gonna have to look at it. I believe.
Yeah, I'll have to relook it. But like,
yeah,
I remember,
look at that. He has him as a shooter, Robert.
maybe he does. Maybe he does.
Or a
but
shooter
not as,
or the shooter. Could it
but like,
be
you
one
know,
of them?
A shooter as part of the conspiracy.
Okay.
Like, the reason why I say
There's
it's-
no researchers who agree with Elroy on that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I
Yeah,
can see that.
that's
But like
what-
the
that's
rest
what
of
I'm
his text is they're trying to get Kennedy in other places before.
Oh yeah,
like,
that's all accurate. That's all. I'm just saying
core
that,
shooting
Elroy
cadre.
believing that Oswald was one of the shooters
I got you.
separates him from the real researchers in the case.
I got you.
That's been disproved.
Yeah, when he has other theories that are outside of the thing.
Right. This is one of them. This is a major part of it, though.
But his main hypothesis, what was really good, is he gives a template of power,
right
of how these what I call gray space operators operate.
Yep.
And so once you get a sense of that, it's like he does the same thing in LA Confidential. Once you get a sense that you can plug and play in almost any scandal, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can find these guys showing up in Oklahoma City. You can find these guys showing up around 9/11.
Las Vegas.
Yeah, you can find them showing up around Las Vegas.
Vegas.
It's like once you know what to look for, which is what he does the best job of, is that's the part I found most helpful for reading his books. So I always recommend him, like the American Tabloid Trilogy. He's like, if you understand American political power, how it really operates, read these key glue characters to how power operates.
Moments after, this is an odd thing. Maybe we'll get into it in an episode, Eric. But the moments after Arthur Bremer shoots George Wallace, Nixon sends in the plumbers unit to go to his apartment in Milwaukee to throw around McGovern literature in the apartment. Now you could say, well, Nixon's an opportunist. You know what I mean? Maybe that's a political dirty trick. But I mean, is it part of a deeper intel operation from the deep state? It's a gray line. It's a gray area. I don't really know, but that did happen. That did happen.
And once you understand these middlemen, then you know what to look for in any scandal.
Somebody told me, it wasn't told me, but there's an author, P.T. Duderman or whatever, and I loved his analogy on it. He said that the most dangerous people on the planet are the horse handlers or the horse holders. And what he was talking about is essentially the person right next to the quote great man, the one who would be holding the horse while the general is speaking traditionally. That those are the son of a bitches you got to watch out for. Mm-hmm. They're right there. Everything goes through them. They're a filter to the boss. So anything that's going to go to their boss, they get to see first. They can redirect everything. They perform most of the duties for the person. It's like the chief of staff, technically in the White House, could be one of the most dangerous people alive.
No doubt.
How come, speaking of chief of staff, how come we never hear anything from this Klain guy who's the chief of staff for Biden?
Not for a while. He made some unfortunate tweets back in the day that didn't come true.
Right. I mean, this guy's a ghost. He's a ghost.
The other people to watch out for, as we were seeing with this Danchenko trial, is these Christopher Steele types. Like, as soon as I saw Christopher Steele, I was like, oh, my God, they made Our Man in Havana and Taylor of Panama all over again.
Well, I've said that historically about MI6. They have used us for years and years and years to do their bidding, and we stupidly continue to become the bitch boys for MI6.
And then we're paying all these handlers and operators and mid-tier guys, gray space operators, up to $1 million. FBI, James Comey's FBI offered $1 million to Christopher Steele to provide.
I told you this earlier. I think that Christopher Steele document was really the document on Hunter Biden. They just changed the name on the top.
Because then all of a sudden, well, it's definitely confession through projection. That's all over the place.
I think it's more than that. I think that was the dossier they had on Biden in Moscow, doing his stuff with the madam who was the mayor's wife, where he bought into that escort service in Moscow for $2 million in cash, Robert.
Well, what do you think? Okay, let's say you're Joe. You're writing the script. You're Joe Biden, a poor man's version of LBJ. You've come to the conclusion that they are going to continue to leverage Hunter against you.
Right.
Do you get rid of Hunter?
Physically get rid of him?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one. That is
Like
LBJ.
overdose, right?
LBJ wouldn't even skip a beat. He'd get Mac Wallace on the phone and say, "Take him out, boys."
Well, he took a sixer out, so why, no worries.
Exactly.
He took out his own sister. He took out his own sister, Robert.
Oh, exactly. So if you're Biden, if you really want to be LBJ, there's like a part of Biden that's like the poor man's LBJ. Right. You really got to take out your own son.
Right.
Then the only question is how you do it. Well, I think you do it if you have any LBJ in you. If you
could inject him with live cancer cells and make it like Bo, saying they both died of cancer would be a good cover.
Oh, and you rally around him.
That's
you
right.
make him a martyr.
That's right.
Oh, that's
You
why
like
you're a good
that.
screenwriter. That
That's
is some
right.
sick stuff. That's Wag the Dog Part 2.
You like that, don't you, Barnes? That's why I'm me and you're you.
Yeah, exactly. That is great. That is great. I don't know why more politicians don't use screenwriters, by the way. It's like,
no. Remember, I'll tell you this. After 9/11, they brought the screenwriters into the Pentagon to come up with storylines for them to fight back against the evildoers. They brought in the top 40 guys in Hollywood into a think tank to come up with some storylines for TV shows to fight against the Taliban and the evildoers. So, yeah, I wasn't on the list, but I was embittered that I wasn't on the list.
By the way, now it's time to ruin the evening.
Hold on, Hunley's got something to say. Hold on, Hunley's got something.
Well, no, I was going to say we're getting into last call, so now it's time for
everybody.
No,
I think we.
You got to send those. So any super chats you have, you got to send right now. Now you're on the clock.
Last call for super chats. You better hurry up and start typing. Because he's got his dog out. Once he brings out that dog.
That's right.
Is that Oswald the dog?
Yeah, that's Oswald. That dog's a patsy, Hunley.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's definitely much better than the Groubert.
The Groubert kills that dog. Let me tell everybody.
No.
Yeah,
nobody likes the Groubert. Everybody knows that the dog is better.
Let me tell you, that dog's half Puerto Rican and half black. Look at that dog again.
So it's Joe Biden.
It's a pudding.
It's a biracial dog.
Hey, this dog's been everywhere.
Everywhere.
That's right. It's like Bat Boy.
So of all the pictures that people keep sending in pictures of where they got their photo with the dog.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's starting to come in, actually.
It is totally awesome.
All right, Hunley, what do you got? Let's wrap it up.
Hey, well, we got merch, tie-dye.
Yeah, there's the
America's Untold Stories.
Grateful Dead shirt. Yeah, that's a good one, Eric.
We have that. We've got every other kind of merch.
Get that, though?
Where can you get that?
There's in the description below. We've got a merch link down there.
Right over there.
You don't be like Viva and talk about give a commercial and then forget to give the link.
Well, he keeps saying we're going to go to Rumble. There's no link.
Me up.
There's no link to follow you to Rumble half the time I'm watching
That's
at
true.
the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
He says, I'll come back. I'll put the link up.
Good point, Mark. And I will say that there is a Rumble link in the description of every show that I've been doing.
Bravo.
So anybody who wants to go there, it's right there from the get-go.
Touche.
Definitely want to encourage anybody. Thank you for
you can send me the book fund money on Venmo if you're hard up about PayPal. So
which is owned by PayPal, Mark.
Don't try to undermine my lifestyle. I'm trying to get paid here, Eric. Stop stepping on my storyline.
I'm sorry. I let some integrity slide
Robert
through.
said they did away with Rule 5.
Yeah, they're not going to discriminate anymore, so it's okay. You can support the Groubert Library.
Thank you. Jesus Christ, I got to get the books.
Hey, look at this. Georgina came through. Thank you, Georgina.
Wow, Georgina, love you.
She's always wonderful, and thank you very much. Locals. We're on Locals.
Locals is good.
It's you can see on my name unstructured.
So not structured.
Unstructured locals.
Kind of like this show.
This show's unstructured.
Technically,
Eric and I do
Freeform Friday of Locals, unstructured.
We
not
do
locals.
answer comments on Locals, and we do put up secret documents.
Oh yeah, you can be part. Yeah, exactly. You get the insights.
You get my screenwriting. You get all kinds of stuff that we put up there for Locals members. So there is a benefit.
Valid point. Our logo cuts off Florida, but not California. It was fading. Florida was.
It was the hurricane. It looked better before the hurricane. The logo just wiped it off the map.
I think so. By the way, I did do a poll earlier, so everybody knows. In this particular episode, Barnes, computers were more so at 56%, and phones were at 43%.
Wow.
But
we have a more respectable audience, not as many kids.
But even, like let's say that's 100% there. That's a lot of phone.
Oh yeah, no, that's true. That's absolutely true.
But so definitely let it go or let people know who are in the know.
We'll have a show on Tuesday, right, Eric?
We do have a show on Tuesday. I don't know what it is. We're leading into our 1-year anniversary show.
Woo-hoo, party.
Next Friday. I don't think we'll be doing. Here's the irony. The 1-year anniversary show for us, or a Friday, is the 1-year anniversary of Helena Hutchins, sadly.
Okay, so maybe we should do a Baldwin wrap-up special 1-year anniversary episode.
Maybe. I wanted to do Lord Buckley, but we may not have time to prep for it. So,
Right.
Is it too early to dress up as Alec Baldwin for Halloween?
How many people are going to do that? That's going to be a good one. I mean, a lot of people. I mean, at some point they've got to indict somebody. I mean, it's a year. I mean, justice is slow, but this is crazy.
What was your
That's it.
greatest
That's a
ever
good thing.
Halloween outfit, Mark and Eric?
Okay, I'll tell you my top two ones, and then I got to go. Here's number one. Number one, I took two garbage cans, stacked them one on top of the other, plastic, right? And I bolted them together. I made $100 bill on a sheet. I wrapped the entire garbage can with the $100 bill, made a gigantic paper mache nose where I put one nostril on top of the garbage can, which I was in. The other nostril was for visitors who came by to talk to me, and I got first prize in a Halloween costume for a Halloween party for that one, having the nostril with the $100 bill, snorting some coke. So that was a winner. And the second one was I went as Amanita muscaria, the magic mushroom, with a giant red mushroom on top of my head and a white stalk as a body wrapped in a sheet as a mushroom. That also won a first prize at some random Halloween costume.
There you go. He gave two. I don't really have any.
Okay. Well, it's a good way to end the show. It's a good way to end the show. It's a good way to bail out.
All right.
Anyway, well, Robert, thanks for stopping by. Where are you going to be next? You're going to go and do a Duran or?
Oh, he's got movies tonight.
Right? I'll do a little book club at vivabarneslaw.locals.com.
Right on, brother.
And also
right
do
on.
a Friday night lines, just talking sports.
Right.
At sportspicks.locals.com. Then Sunday will be Law for the People. Tuesday will be the Duran during the day, and then Richard Barris, What Are the Odds, that night.
Wow,
and that's
double barrel. You got double barrel action on Tuesday, huh?
Yeah. So that'll be fun chatting up with those guys. That's the near short-term plans. Then next week, I'm actually in Tennessee at the Children's Health Defense Inaugural Conference.
Oh, right on.
So I'll be up in Rocky Top.
Is that going to be live streamed at all, the conference, or?
I don't know. How it's their first time they've done it. So I think they're not allowed on YouTube. I think they're only on Rumble.
Right.
But I don't know what the plan. I'm sure it's going to be recorded, and I think it's going to be live streamed, but I'll find out from them.
Well, I got people coming over to watch the Dodgers and the Padres in an hour, so I got to start cooking up some dogs over here.
Are the Dodgers going to win?
I don't think so tonight, but I think they'll win in 5. I think they're going to lose tonight.
All right. Well, tomorrow I'm doing a grill stream.
Tonight. Yeah.
On Locals, and Tuesday we'll be doing something, and we'll see everybody.
Thank you.